Great.
So good.
Good.
Man, all right. It's just, it's like flip of a coin what the excitement level is going to be for each individual person every time I say, how are they doing? Because
mine is always like, yes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, for instance, Alex is either like, yeah, I'm busy reading something, or he's like, oh, man, hey guys, how you doing?
I'm literally busy reading something.
It happens.
You got to read the articles before we talk about them.
Yeah.
Before.
Not during.
Correct.
And
Hey,
that
everybody,
makes us
welcome.
better than my co-hosts.
All right,
what's up?
5 fingers away from your mic, Owen.
It's like it's a little, when you put your thumb and your pinky and then you get to the microphone, you're like, all right, this distance is perfect. Yeah. Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Forecast, a bi-weekly podcast about everything games, film, and news. I'm Aaron Juno.
I'm Alex McCausland.
I'm Caleb Juno.
I'm Chad McCausland.
I'm Jake Fetterkyle.
I'm Owen Patterline. Welcome, kings, queens, and the in-betweens.
Ooh,
wow.
my God.
I like
That's a good one.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I told you I've got good ones now, guys.
You sound like a document running. It's like
I do.
introduction ideas.
It's called ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's right. On today's episode number 177, the brother of the guy from Ancient Aliens talks UAPs with Congress, while the division between SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP deepens. Plus, Activision Blizzard lays off 50-plus people from their esports division, and Frosthaven hits a special rank on Board Game Geek. And of course, we've been playing games. If you'd like to know more about what we do, you can follow us on our social channels. You can check out our website, wearethehorizon.com, where we have a ton of original content for you to browse through, including our multi-arc Starfinder adventure, the Discord and Signal. Additionally, everything we talk about is in our cast notes, which is pushed out to whatever podcasting app you are using. All right, let's get into it. And Alex, start with some rate that list, baby.
Gosh.
I really want to have a button where I hit it and it just goes, rate that list, like a big crowd cheers,
All right,
And
so
if we actually do have regulars, they're like, man, the energy that Aaron is bringing today is absurd.
So much
man.
higher than everyone else.
It's always my energy. This is just me, guys.
This is not your baseline.
gosh. He said I'm going to be running a little late, and that was when he snorted the line.
That's freaking mad. I did. Little key bump, baby. Let's go.
So there was a topic I wanted to talk about today on today's podcast
Really?
that just so happened to perfectly have a top 10 list inside of it. So
Oh.
this is the 10 highest grossing tours of all time, musical tours.
Oh.
Okay, well, we know what number one is.
Do we?
I mean, is it number one's Taylor Swift, right? Like, it's the
Okay.
Eras Tour. That thing
This
has been,
is-
like, that's all over the place.
This is excluding the Eras Tour.
Oh, this
because
is
the Eras Tour-
It's a
Because it's currently in
weird
progress.
The Eras Tour
clarification.
is still in progress, and that's the main topic I wanted to talk about was the Eras Tour. But top 10 list, Harry Styles is number 10.
Okay.
I would not have
Harry
guessed
Styles.
No, yeah.
Does
that
it give
Harry
these-
Styles is that popular.
Does it give values for these
Seriously?
Yeah,
stores?
418 million.
Okay.
That's what he made.
All right. So we haven't hit Ed Sheeran $500 million on the Divide tour yet. So
Exactly.
True. Okay, AC/DC.
okay.
This is
Wow.
2008,
them.
2010, 442 million. Roger Waters, I don't even know who that is.
Who's that? Yeah.
Who's that?
You guys don't know about Roger
2010 to
Waters?
13.
Nope.
I just drink
he's-
regular
it's-
water.
Pink Floyd.
Yep.
Is it?
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
Roger Waters.
Mhm.
Oh, the tour is called The Wall Live. Is it
Mhm.
not just called Pink Floyd?
I think
That's
it's because
weird.
he's the only one left.
Yeah,
Huh.
I feel like that's
Okay, 459 million. Coldplay, their 16 to 17 tour, 524 million.
Man, how many
We
times
have-
on that tour do you think they played Yellow?
So
conservatively
many
speaking.
times. I mean,
How many dates are there?
Once per tour date, yeah.
Yeah, honestly,
just
they might
once?
play
At
it
least.
more than one time. per
You
year.
think
Open
more than
and
once?
close with
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Open. It's,
They
it's,
come
the,
back
and
it's
have
the
an
second
encore.
encore. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
They know what the people want.
Yeah.
that's right.
So that's over the $500 million mark, 524 million.
Okay. Okay.
Ooh.
And then 6 and 5 are back-to-back Rolling Stones tours. Well, they're not
Okay.
back-to-back, but Rolling Stones got 2 of them. 547 and 558. Guns N' Roses at number 4. That's 584
Really?
million.
Good for them.
U2 is at $736 million. That's
Wow, that's
Wow.
a big jump.
That's
People
really depressing.
like U2. That's weird. That's
That
bizarre.
People love
weird.
you too.
You remember when they gave away that U2 album for free and everyone was pissed about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like my one data point, but I assumed.
Oh, it's funny. Then you hit the $500 million on the Divide tour. Ed Sheeran, $776 million on that tour.
And
then-
that is 750 million on the Divide tour.
Yeah,
Let's
three
just-
quarters of a billion. He needed to update his song, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then number 1 is Elton John.
Elton John.
Wow.
$853 million.
Okay,
I'd
do
like
we
to
want to
point
guess?
out, 2 of these say X year to present, but they're not counting the Eras tour, which is present.
Oh, I
What
guess
is
Well,
they do.
that?
yeah, but if they wrote it last year, they would have said present. It's not like a continually updating present.
You're saying this is really old?
I'm not looking at the article. I had more important things to do.
I think this is this month. This article this month.
Yep, July 4th.
So the crux of this article is that Taylor Swift's Eras tour is set to be the first tour to break $1 billion.
Oh yeah.
Jeez. I
do we
mean,
want to guess how many of these tours I have been to?
Is it 0?
It is in
6.
fact 2,
Oh, wow.
and I photographed one of them.
wow,
Wow.
that's cool.
Ed
Which is
Sheeran.
2?
It was Ed Sheeran. I photographed
Oh.
Ed Sheeran's when he was at the DC date of his Divide tour, and I went to Elton John. So
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
wow, that's really cool.
Also,
How
back up
was
to
the
Taylor
Elton
Swift for a
John
second.
tour?
Yes.
Heard he's a little.
Talk about Elton John first. We'll back up to Taylor Swift for a second.
Sorry.
yeah,
sorry.
I mean, Elton John isn't as energetic as a young man as he used to be. No fault to him, but he can still hit the high notes, which I appreciated.
Yeah. Okay.
I did notice a couple key changes in some of the songs, so he can kind of do them a little easier. But other than that, I was like, yeah, this is fine. I enjoyed it. I liked Elton John, and it's his last fucking tour. So
Yeah.
he's said multiple times, he's like, this is it. I'm gonna go hang out with my family. I'm done with music. Thanks for everything. This has been great. Unlike the Rolling Stones, who are like, this is our last tour. 10 years later, okay, this is our last tour.
So Rolling Stones are the Tom Brady's of music.
Yeah.
I got him.
Wow.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor.
Yeah, so
First
backing up
tour to
Taylor
hit $1
Swift.
billion, possibly.
So
Crazy.
it's also, how many tours have there ever been where it's actually economically stimulating to different areas?
Yeah.
Because there have been people that have come out and thanked Taylor for kickstarting the economy again.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah. I saw that somebody was mentioning that the hotels in areas that Taylor plays at haven't seen that level of use and occupancy since before COVID.
Yeah.
That just her being there just shoots it up, which is I think it's fucking insane. And good for her.
So here's some headlines that I pulled. The Federal Reserve says Taylor Swift's Eras tour boosted the economy. One market research firm estimates that she added $5 billion to the GDP.
$5 billion to the GDP.
Amazing.
And then
man.
there's several articles that talk about how Australia can probably avoid a recession because she announced tour dates there.
Oh, it's just
That's
Australia? That makes me feel better.
Insane.
Usually
Hey,
you
man.
hear artists talk about changing the world, but I guess Taylor's actually doing it.
I'm
She
just
does
thinking
it.
of that. I'm just thinking of that Starship Troopers scene. I'm doing my part. That's her.
Yeah.
Now here's the real question about Taylor Swift. Do you guys know what era you are? Have you guys taken the eras quiz?
I know.
No.
I've taken it.
Shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. It's just guys, you got to know what era you are.
I know what era I am.
I don't even know what that means.
I am the lover era, obviously.
You're the lover era? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I'm speak now.
Oh,
Speak
okay.
now.
That makes sense.
Yeah, speak now era.
Taylor's version just came out.
I know. Very excited. Very excited. Janae is 100% reputation.
I'm the 1800s. It's my
You're the
era.
1800s in general.
Yeah.
Is this just a
So-
BuzzFeed quiz?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of quizzes for era tours, like what era you are. Because I don't know if you know this about the show, but basically everybody dresses up as one of her eras, one of her albums.
Right.
And it's based on, I don't know, their personality traits that align with something that has to do with that album, and that's why they dress up in that era.
Yeah, I saw a
Cool.
while we're on the top of it, I saw an article that was talking about all of her original releases and then the Taylor's version releases and how they're selling. And like basically it was just saying how even her Taylor's version, most of them sell about half as well as the original version, which for a re-release is like ridiculously good, and even that is better than most other artists' normal albums. Like just that alone, they're like, yeah, it's a re-release, but that re-release is doing so well.
Yeah.
Also, if you look at the streaming charts, her Taylor's versions outstream the original versions like by a crazy margin. And I believe dude that bought the rights to the first 6 albums, he paid like $300 million. And they're basically worthless at this point because they're like not bringing in the royalties they
Because
should
she
be.
Sucks
made
to
it that
suck.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as she gets like the last couple out, they'll just basically be worth nothing. Speaking of her albums, we just talked about her new Taylor's version of Speak Now came out. It's #1 on the Billboard Top 200. She currently takes up 11 of the top 200 spots.
I think she was the first artist to take up like the top 10 of the top 200 or something like that. Like she just was like, these are all mine. And like
now.
no one's ever done that before. And I was like, yeah, because Taylor's fucking insane. Like
Yeah.
she has the rabidest of rabid fan bases, and we love her, and she just prints money. So like,
He is a cultural
She
phenomenon.
also, since she's re-releasing her albums and they're counted as separate, she has now passed Barbara Streisand for number of platinum albums for a female recording artist.
With re-released albums,
Yep.
I mean, I get it, but
That's like us seeing a remastered as a GOTY. We can't do that, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's against our rules.
honestly, I feel like because of Taylor, she's opened our eyes, and now,
nope.
yeah.
Nope. I view that we have more integrity than whoever hands out platinum fucking discs. What is it,
Okay,
the
so you're not talking
RIAA?
about Taylor. You're talking about the people handing out platinums.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to move into a couple things in Newsroom, as long as you're done, Alex. With
Yeah,
your
that was
Okay,
that was
all
all my factoids.
10 out
that
of
were
10
really
was
interesting.
It was good. Oh, by the way, before we move into news, I do you remember I was telling you about the largest concert ever held?
Yeah.
Right. Apparently, that was slightly inaccurate, only because there are reported numbers from other concerts around the world that are free, but all of those like free concert numbers are general concepts. Like it's not, they didn't register, they didn't ticket people, they don't know how many people actually went to the show.
Estimated.
Yeah, it's an estimated number. So I was talking about Metallica back in like 1991 in Moscow. They did Monsters of Rock for 1.6 million people. It was a free concert. But I was looking up more data on this, and there was a Rod Stewart concert in Rio de Janeiro. Janeiro? That was really hard to say. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, on New Year's Eve for 3.5 million people.
What?
I don't know how you could. You remember we were talking about this with 1.6 million people, how you'd be able to hear the concert? How do
How
you
would
hear a
everybody-
concert with 3.5 million people?
You got 3.5
Yeah.
million there. All you're hearing is breathing.
Yeah.
True.
I guess, if everybody's singing along, even if you're at the back, you're just hearing everyone else singing, so you're basically getting the
Yeah,
concert.
but
sure.
imagine the delay between what
Yeah.
they're playing on stage versus when you're singing a song. It's like a wave of sound. Man, crazy stuff. Okay, but on to real news. Owen, I assume we're talking about
Oh,
a
you know it, baby.
whistleblower talking to Congress today.
Well, with 3 whistleblowers that were talking
yeah.
to Congress yesterday, and there was a small subcommittee that was talking about UFPs, which is
UAPs.
unidentified UAPs. I'm sorry, unidentified aerial phenomenons.
Yep.
And goddamn, were they just like, yo, aliens? Aliens. It was phenomenal watching. First of all, I do have to say that in all of their opening statements, and they're talking about like, oh, I'd like to thank this organization and this person and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, like, you get the normal, like, you know, hey, thank this congressperson or that person. And then there's the one person that was like, oh, and I'd like to thank Tom DeLonge for starting this organization or something like that. And I had to stop, because if anyone knows who Tom DeLonge is, he's the guitarist for Blink-182 that stopped being in Blink-182 to start an organization about aliens.
Great.
That got in front of Congress, and now he's back with Blink-182, and I'm just like, this man is crazy, but he fucking did it. Like, he left the band and did the thing he was going to do, and now is back. Like, props to fucking him, man.
Did you watch any of the recaps from it? Have you read anything about the
I
statements?
know. I watched the entire fucking
watched
thing
the
on
whole
C-SPAN,
thing.
my guy.
Man, all right. Anything stand out to you in particular?
Yeah, so there was the statement of someone asked how long the US government has been trying to cover this up, and the person was like, it has at least been multiple decades of cover up.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, if you're tracking, you know, Area 51, like, makes sense. You know, they've been at it for a while, so I was like, okay, that fair. There was also somebody asking if the United States was in possession of non-human biologics.
Yep, that was the term.
Yeah, non-human biologics. And he was like, yes, I can confirm that the United States has non-human biologics, which I was like, he just straight up was like, there's aliens.
Yeah, at one point he was talking, they asked, I know the exact guy you're talking about, they asked him at one point if they had, how did they describe it? It was basically something to the effect of like, are these non-human biologics of extraterrestrial origin? And he was like, well, we're going to widen the scope here because I don't want to limit it to just outside of planet Earth. Because, you know, we don't know exactly where these are from. So that's when he coined the non-human biologics.
I've seen a lot of non-human biologics in my life. I don't know about you guys.
Right?
Plants.
Yeah.
They're not that surprising.
Yeah.
But they are surprising to be piloting aircraft that, in the terms of both of the pilots, are able to do things that aircraft that with current technology are not able to do, even with future technology are not able to do.
I also really liked the statement because they did ask him, Grush or whatever his name was, whether or not anybody was injured analyzing a UAP. Because they were talking about like, okay, all right, there must be a lot of people like analyzing the technology and weapon systems of these UAPs. Has anybody ever been injured? And he just was just like, yes. And they're like a follow-up, please? Is it anything like radioactive? And he said, quote, you have to imagine accessing an unknown. There's a lot of potentialities you can't fully prepare for. He gave me a little Donald Rumsfeld from like 2004, Unknown Unknowns. Yes! I was so excited for that. That was
known unknowns. You got unknown unknowns.
That's right, baby.
They described like one of the UAPs as like standing still in gale, like category 4 hurricanes, and then going supersonic in a different direction. And I was like, and that is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like just like the physics that these things have to do is just so mind-bogglingly broken that I was like, yeah, that's crazy that this technology might possibly exist elsewhere. Because we have not even started like scratching the surface of anything that could do things like that. And so that's just kind of like absolutely
it's mostly because it's physics defying.
Yeah.
In one way or another. The only other question I thought really was a standout for me was when they asked the same guy, Grush, however you say it again, whether or not that the U.S. government had been in contact with any sort of intelligent extraterrestrial life. And he was just like, well, that's something I can't discuss in a public forum. Now, if we're behind a closed door setting, I'd be more than happy to to talk to you about this. And I'm
Yep.
thinking, wait, aren't you like a whistleblower? Like,
Yeah, what?
this is the time when you blow the whistle, my guy.
Well,
Like,
so yeah, that was one of the interesting things of him was that like a lot of his answers were that
Right.
because he is a whistleblower, but he still works in some sort of intelligence community, and they had to debrief him of what he could and could not talk about. And so there was a lot of stuff that like literally he could not say because of his job or his previous job. And so he was like, there was a
He
bunch of
doesn't
things
sound
like,
like a whistleblower at all anymore.
I can't
Right.
say this right now, or like I can't say this out publicly, or like, and a lot of the Congress people were upset because they wanted to have a skiff with him, which is basically like a closed door meeting, so they could gain this level of information and be able to have this conversation with him and not have it publicly. Yeah, but like the Pentagon just wouldn't allow it to happen. They're like, no, you cannot be in a closed door with this man. Like, you just, nope, he knows too much.
So-
And I was like, if anybody is sitting there being like, you can't talk to this person because this person knows too much, I immediately want to start talking to that person. I'm like, he knows everything you need to know. Find him.
So we're like taking this man seriously? Is that what we're doing?
that's a great question.
I
I mean, there's three of them, right? It's not just him. There's three independent
three of
guys,
them.
and they're from different, not branches.
Yeah. Gush is from the intelligence committee in like intelligence end because he's like DOD basically and Pentagon and all that. There is somebody who is an ex military pilot because he's the one that caught the videotape of the UAP in 2004 that got released all over the place. So he's like one of the other big ones. And then the third guy is another pilot, and he seemed to be more advocating for a lot of because he's part of the Tom DeLonge's organization and was talking a lot about like safety for pilots in general, not just like military. It was just kind of like he was more like nonprofit based were the three guys, and all three of them together talking about it. Like, even if you don't believe in aliens, like there's
Aliens. Not saying it
something
right.
yeah, like there's obviously something there. Like they talked about the misappropriation of funds from the Pentagon, which, like, surprise surprise, of course it is when half of your shit is redacted. Like, you can spend the money wherever the fuck you want. Of course they've been up to doing that. And like, you know, they were saying that they wanted, one of the main outcomes they wanted out of this wasn't to be like to like warn the, you know, the public about aliens existing, but they were like, hey, we need to have a way of investigating these phenomenon, and we need a way of reporting these phenomenon, and we need to like kind of destigmatize aliens around it, because while one of the guys there was basically being there like, yeah, aliens, they exist, the other two were just basically saying it's like, we saw shit. We don't know what the hell it was, but we saw shit, and we want someone to look at the shit that we saw and like try to explain whatever that shit that we saw is. Whether that's NASA, because it could just be some sort of some sort of flare or some shit, or whoever. They were like, yeah,
They're all weather balloons.
Yeah.
So like, it was just a lot of these things of just being like, you know, I think the guy who was from the nonprofit organization mentioned how like basically every single day there's a commercial pilot in the United States that sees one of these events, and he's like, not all of these events are aliens, but all of these events are something unexplained in the airspace of the United States that could be something bad. It could be a hole in our national defense. It could be some random like atmospheric thing. It could be just a weather balloon. But someone needs to be able to. There needs to be a way to report it and not get fired from your job. And for someone to go and look at whatever that is and just be like, hey, it was a weather balloon. Don't worry about it. I was like, I think that's a reasonable thing to ask, that if you see something weird in the skies, it's not immediately aliens. And someone who can, like, access things can then look at it and just be like, and be like, oh yeah, hey, according to all of these other data points from this radar and that radar and this thing and that thing, we can tell you that this was just a meteor falling from the sky. Cool. Awesome. Or, hey, this is aliens.
So I have been somehow trapped in this alien talk for a little bit now. So my TikTok is filled with a bunch of people describing this hearing or whatever you want to call it. One person was like, this is essentially what went down. Hey, so we have proof that there's aliens. Oh, you got pictures now? Oh, okay. Great. So what else you got? Oh, we got UFP sightings and stuff like that. Oh, you got pictures of that now? Oh, okay. But we have documentation that basically said, oh, can we see that now? Oh, okay. So what do you got for us?
Yeah.
And then there's also, of course, within this atmosphere, tinfoil hats and conspiracies. And one of the ones that I find the most hilarious, but also the most riveting, is if you go back to a Reagan speech, he basically states that he wants extraterrestrial threats to come upon Earth so that we could finally become one world order, because, all of our problems on Earth will be so minuscule
goodness.
In comparison to, an extraterrestrial threat. So they're basically saying what the government is doing currently is getting us prepared for fake holographic aliens to attack the world so that we are going to become a one world order.
Isn't this the plot to Watchmen?
One world
Isn't this
order
exactly what that was about?
Yeah, like unite the world under a common threat.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the credible tin hatness. I will say that there is a lot of I think credibility to, hey, if you have a common enemy, you stop fighting each other.
Yeah,
and we stop having control over things. And so there is a little bit of there is kind of a thing of just being like, hey, if there's a reason the government wants to keep it top secret, because when you start putting things in perspective of Earth versus something else out there, you stop thinking of America. You lose some of your control and reigns over the people. And so, I do kind of see that there is some credibility of that, because that's how we've governed people for thousands of years. Look at religion and churches. That's how they do a lot of their shit.
Mm-hmm.
There was one other guy that was like, I really love how Hollywood has got aliens completely wrong. They don't just come to conquer the Earth. They're just some hinge date. They're really shy, hard to get, and you're just constantly texting them hey, we gonna do drinks this Tuesday? And they're just coming in, popping, looking, and just dodging away. So they've read your message, but they're never gonna show themselves.
There was one of the congressmen mentioned, he's like, I have trouble believing that there is a race of something, or there is something out there that is so intelligent that it can travel millions of light years to get to us, but then somehow fucks up and crashes on the planet. And he's somehow messes up and then ends up accidentally crashing in the plane. And he's like, I have trouble believing that. And one of the one of the witnesses points out, he was like, even in the most state of the art aircraft that we have, failures still happen. And so his thing was shooting back was basically, he's like, hey, even in the most expensive planes that we own, they do crash. What goes up has to come down eventually.
Why every time I think about anything to do with intelligent life elsewhere, or aliens, UFOs, or anything like that, there's two really good videos from Kurskart, or however you say that name of that YouTube channel. I can never pronounce it. But there's one about the Great Filter, which you should watch. It's very, very good. It's about this filter that basically is when civilizations hit the filter, they either collapse or they have passed through it. And the odds that anything has ever passed through it, it's either we're the only ones, or we haven't yet hit the filter. And it talks a lot about how there's just something that always ends civilizations because they achieve a certain level of technology. The other one you should watch is called The Local Group, or that's about the local group, the local bubble, which is just basically that everything moves away so fast since the Big
The
Bang,
universe is
because everything's
expanding.
expanding at such a rapid rate that we never can achieve any sort of travel from one spot to another because there's no way for us to travel fast enough to get to those points in space. Very interesting and unique, and it really like encapsulates the idea of like things traveling from far away.
Like
or higher
the
distances
idea
or
of the
further
local group
distances.
is like you'd have to develop faster than light travel to be able to get beyond a certain point away from the Earth. And they believe that's impossible with our current understanding of physics.
Yeah.
So as long as that is impossible, there's only a certain distance you can get away from the planet. And the likelihood that intelligent life started within that certain distance is like super,
It's a lot
super small
smaller.
because
Yeah.
it's like an incredibly small part of the universe that we could actually travel to or be traveled to from.
Crazy stuff. Gotta go watch those videos though. Excellent stuff. Anyway, aliens.
Millions.
Should these other two things be in video games, Alex? They seem like when I think of news and then I read Minecraft and Roblox, I'm like, man, for some reason this
You
doesn't.
know.
I feel like they
Yes.
belong in a different category, maybe.
I don't know what it is. Like, is this more news? Oh, he's moving it down now. All right, he's moving it down. Okay, let's talk about a couple other things. One of which is in tabletop. I will have you guys know I'm very excited because Frosthaven is currently ranked 69 on Board Game Geek.
That's way too low.
Yeah, it is way too low. But it takes a while for games to actually work their way up because the way that Board Game Geek does their ratings, which
That's
wait
true.
how many like ratings have been given.
yeah,
Right.
Honestly,
I can
I think
appreciate
they
that.
were aiming for this. It's great publicity. I think they made a #1 game and they were like, just put in some bad stuff. Just like a little bit, though. Just
True.
enough.
And now people are like, if it crawls up to 68, people start like review bombing it to keep it at
Oh,
69.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what I
There's a
would do.
I'll
constant
be part of
balance
it.
to
Yeah.
keep it in that exact spot.
Yeah.
Perfectly balanced as all things should be.
Yes. I did want to bring this up because I don't think we've talked about, at least the three of us who've played, I don't think we've talked about Frosthaven since we started playing
I believe we have.
Mm-mm.
A couple weeks ago, Alex, Caleb, and I all started playing some Frosthaven, and we had one of our friends here, Jonathan, join us for a couple sessions last week. If you don't know, Frosthaven obviously is the prequel to Gloomhaven, and it's set in the same world and has very similar mechanics to Gloomhaven.
I like that you say obviously, like it's obvious
Obviously,
that
it's the
Frost comes
prequel.
before Gloom.
Yes, of course, that's how it works.
Obviously.
But it expounds upon a lot of the rules and mechanics of Gloomhaven in very efficient and unique ways. And it also adds a lot of elements to the gameplay that expand the entirety of the game. It doesn't just feel like packaged events and packaged scenarios where you're moving through with characters. You're also building up this little fort, the Fort of Frosthaven, and you are constructing buildings and constructing ships and sleds and climbing gear and components that allow you to access different scenarios throughout the game. And I don't know, like, you guys' specific opinion at this point, but so far I've been very impressed with both the progression of the game and how fast I feel like we're unlocking things, and the uniqueness of the scenarios that we've jumped into.
When we first started playing, I was really worried that they ruined Gloomhaven with survival crafting. But it's not actually that bad. It's actually got cool, like, additional stuff that just happens in between scenarios. Because you collect like wood and fur and stuff now instead of just money.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use that to like build buildings at Frosthaven in between fighting.
And
Or
it
a ship.
actually, it often feels a lot better collecting that random stuff than it does collecting just money.
Yeah.
Like you flip a loot card and you get gold and you're like, oh, yay, gold.
Yeah.
You flip it and you get an herb and you're like, yes, I can do some alchemy, make a new potion.
Yeah.
It's
Y'all are a
wild.
bunch of nerds.
I know.
Exactly. We are.
Sounds so lame.
The alchemy stuff is so cool. It's got like a bunch of little like pair off potions, and you have to have the correct herbs to be able to unlock them.
Wow.
And who knows what All of that's
Who knows
hiding.
what lies under there. Yeah.
Take
I
it
feel
back.
like-
That's so cool.
And the
I
coin
feel
aspect.
like all the mechanics they've added
ahead.
have been really interesting.
Mhm.
Even just building up the base, I think is going to have some cool. We haven't seen a lot yet. We've only built like things that give us more resources, essentially,
And one wall.
and one
And
wall.
a boat.
We
and a
did
boat.
build a boat.
And a
That's
sled.
true, which gave us access to different missions that
Scenarios.
are out on the sea, which is kind of cool.
The other unique part about Frosthaven is that it feels more. The story feels more tied to the actual setting. In Gloomhaven, the scenarios, while very unique and with like they usually had a really cool story that went from scenario to scenario, like a little subplot for what's going on and happening in Gloomhaven. This one is specifically tied to what's going on in Frosthaven, and on the party sheet where you're tracking like what you're doing throughout the game, it has like here's 6 months of summer and then here's 6 months of winter, and as you progress, it like you're like checking off a week at a time because each scenario is a week, and as you progress forward, you end up with these little story beats that change the way you approach scenarios, or they change what's going on in Frosthaven, or they add elements. And as you encounter scenarios, or as you encounter road events or outpost events, sometimes you'll just add new story beats to that calendar. So when you get to that point, you kind of evolve the story, the ever-evolving story of Frosthaven. And I think that's an excellent inclusion to this game. I don't know.
The new classes are really cool too. Like they have one that's like pretty basic, like Gloomhaven, and then the rest of the starting classes all have like really cool, unique mechanics.
Yeah, Gloomhaven, the starting classes in Gloomhaven, they have basically like different themes, but all their mechanics are basically the same, right? Maybe like a tiny twist on it. But the Frosthaven classes, the mechanics are like vastly different. There's a character who can only use attacks if they have allies in specific locations. There's a character who has like a slow and a fast mode, and it changes all of the things on their cards, whether or not they're going slow or fast, and they gotta like bounce back and forth. It's just the characters are vastly different.
Character with 2 decks and transfers forms between 2 different forms, and you can only utilize 1 deck for each form, and it gets complicated. I mean, what I like most about that is, and one of the things I loved about Gloomhaven most is that when the very first time when you play with a party, you don't really know what the party's doing. And I think that's the way Gloomhaven's designed. Like, you don't know what number their initiative is, so you're kind of playing off of what you know about that character, which when you start is very little. But as your characters play together, you begin learning how they approach combat, and so you can be like, I know that guy usually goes with like a 31 or a 35 at this point based on his positioning. So you're kind of playing off the other characters in the game. And that is one of the best features of Gloomhaven. And this capitalizes on that because it takes into account not only the initiative, but also all of the other mechanics for the various classes that you're playing and implements them into that design element as well. Incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway. I love Frosthaven, guys. I love Gloomhaven. Isaac's he's a smart guy.
Yeah. Makes some
Smart
good
guy.
stuff.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk one thing in film world, and that is about the strike, which is affecting a lot of people and a lot of content, and just in general, everyone at this point has probably heard about what's going on with the strike between SAG-AFTRA and AMPTP. I don't know who specifically wanted to highlight this. Alex, is that you?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of wanted to talk about I've been seeing some people discuss kind of the situation. The strike doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon, and like what content creators are going to be doing. And I saw some people talk about how Netflix is kind of set because they've already been working this direction for a long time, where they do like a lot of overseas based content, like a lot of Asian like television shows and movies and stuff like that they just put out on their platform. I mean, Squid Game is the obvious.
Yeah, they have a lot of Korean shows.
Yeah, but they've got a ton on there that's just like, oh, this looks interesting, and then you start watching and I'm like, wait a second, the mouth's not matching up. This is a foreign something foreign, and then I have to go like switch the audio because I don't like when the mouths don't match. But I just thought that was an interesting idea that these studios might be leaning into alternative means of production for a while. Like
That is
why,
interesting.
while like an agreement can't be made.
Sure, it lets other markets thrive a little bit. It gives them a shot
Yeah.
where otherwise they wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's just it'll be interesting because there's like predictions that there's going to be major shortages on just content for like the next few years at this point, like out to like 2027. I've seen projections of like big blockbuster
Wow.
stuff is just not going to be happening based on all the backup that this has caused.
I was saying like Stranger Things isn't going to be coming out till 2027. Euphoria is with it. Like everybody in the comment sections of like the post that basically was describing this was like, is it even worth Euphoria continuing at this point? Like waiting that long for a conclusion? Like that's no. Like okay.
Yeah, I was thinking something like Stranger Things. It's predicated on them being kids, relatively.
Yeah.
Give it another few years, and it's like, well, the plot just doesn't work anymore.
It's
guys.
gonna be
You gotta...
great when they come back and they have full beards and deep
Yeah,
voices.
it's like you gotta just
10-year
cancel it, I guess.
Jump.
'Tis interesting. But yeah, I mean, I could see them pushing a lot of like Squid Game type stuff. Like it's kind of like existed in the background on Netflix for a while, but I could see them trying to like really advertise it.
Oh, sure.
Just talking
Yeah.
about indie stuff.
And they also have just a bunch of
Yeah.
anime on there.
Yeah, just anime,
Lean even more into that.
Korean shows, Japanese shows.
So I mentioned this before we got on the podcast, but A24 has approved 39 indie projects. That's a lot. Don't really know what there's going to be, but there's like Matthew McConaughey is in it, Mark Wahlberg, Mel Gibson, bunch of actors like that are kind of flocking to A24 because you know SAG-AFTRA is getting what they want from them.
Well, I can tell you, I don't know exactly what the films are going to be, but I can tell you what the basis is going to be. Is you're going to go thinking it's going to be a horror film, and then you're going to get to the end of the movie, and it's going to be like, wait, what just happened?
I mean, do we all think The Whale is going to be a horror show though?
That's true. That's true.
I saw a clip the other day because once again I've been on Film Talk, so TikTok film, and there's been a bunch of information about this coming out, and Bryan Cranston was actually in the middle of one of the strikes, like making a speech, and what he's upset about is he doesn't want AI to take over the scribes' jobs and also actors' roles. So
Yeah, it's a big deal because the initial correspondence back between the two parties in this strike basically told the actors, they were like, when they were asking like for provisions on AI, hey, I don't want AI to be, creating my likeness in content. Their initial feedback was, or at least has been reported, that it was, well, you know what, we won't do that for new content, but anything you've done in the past, that's free game. We can just pull from that. And it, like, to me, that's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I don't know, like, how that doesn't seem like it's fair game just because, oh, we did it in the past, so I'm just gonna reuse this for something else. That's still
Let's
in
make
their
a young
likeness.
version of you real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
Weird.
talking about like the likeness rights stuff. They could have like an extra come on, and you could scan them and have them like work for a day, and then they could just not pay them anymore and use them for like the rest of whatever project they're working on. Because like
Capitalism,
background
baby.
characters, like you don't really focus on them too much, so it's easier to like AI and CG them in if you want. So
Well, I mean, we talked like 3 or 4 months ago. We were talking about that AI tool that they were using to like change actors' faces to be able to make them speak in native languages. If you remember
Right.
that,
Yeah.
and I mean, considering like the pace at which this type of technology is progressing, we're not far off from that just being like almost like at the moment of filming, being able to convert that over to something else. So you capture something and you're just like, all right, well, we'll take this and we'll convert it into whatever we want for our utilization for whatever content we want. And that is very scary, especially for people in the writing or like extras aspect.
Yeah, they need all that stuff written into contracts to make sure that they don't get screwed over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure if you can AI somebody's face, it's probably really easy to AI their voice as well at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Oh,
You can just
that's
make them do
been
whatever.
a problem with a lot of voice actors is that there's AIs that do exactly that, and that at least what I've seen that it's been used for mostly is X-rated material and having the character say something that they wouldn't that would be X-rated for listening audience's pleasure, I guess. And so they're like, hey, it's really fucked up that you're taking my voice and saying, like, spank me daddy or whatever. Like, that's really fucking weird. And it's like, yeah, that is really weird. Like, that is a human person's voice that you're taking and making them say whatever your kink desire is, and that's
I think all this really boils back to, though, we need to have some sort of legislative effort to limit AI's usage in a whole bunch of different areas of life. Because if you think about it, 6, 8, 10 years ago, we were talking about machine learning taking over blue collar jobs, and like things like production, like factories, like because we were going to get really into robotics, and the machine learning was going to take over all the people who were putting parts together or constructing things. And that didn't really happen because it's really expensive to make robots and it's really difficult to reproduce that. But text-based artificial intelligence, video and content development-based artificial intelligence, it's so easy for that to take over so many different sectors of life and business that there needs to be some sort of legislative action to prevent that in a lot of different ways. Limit the amount of stuff that AI can do, and limit the progress at which they can take and expound upon what they're currently doing, or take it into a new industry or a new segment in order to capitalize on that. If they don't, it's just going to ramp out of control, and we're already kind of seeing some of that.
Yeah,
in
it's
some
already getting there.
places. Yeah,
And like the big large language models like ChatGPT and stuff like that, they started off cloud-based, but already you can get large language models that you can run locally on a dedicated GPU.
Yeah.
And I've messed around with some of that stuff, and it's really cool. You get like basically the same experience as with ChatGPT, like 90% of the quality they cite. And it really depends on like how much VRAM you have for how much you can like load in, essentially. But like 10 gigs or whatever is on a lot of the cards nowadays. You can basically get a language model that runs at 90%, 95% of the quality of ChatGPT 4 right local on your machine.
Two things. One, for these large language models, did you guys know that you can work a job for insert arbitrary artificial intelligence large language model or learning language model, whatever, and your whole job is you're paid like a couple bucks an hour to make early determinations about what these artificial intelligences are trying to do. Like, so as a human, you are developing a subset of data that can then be mined by that AI in order to create answers based on what they're trying to use the technology for. So
Sick.
for instance is you could go work for, and it never stipulates which company, which specific AI company you're working for, but basically you can go work for one of these companies and it's an open contract for you to do, let's say, identify articles of clothing from the photos. It's basically like a CAPTCHA. And your whole job is to go look through all these photos and identify articles of clothing, which things have articles of clothing and which things don't, because you are creating the base data set for these language models to learn off of and these intelligence models to learn off of. They're also doing it for like, draw the most efficient path for this forklift to move through this factory to find this one part. And so you would draw an efficient path based on what it needs to pick up. And all that data set, all those data sets just go to feed these models in order to recreate something for whatever it's being utilized for, which most of the time you don't know. That's
you
weird,
think
right?
we could all get in there and give it junk data to sabotage our robot overlords?
It
I
was
think
Give us
it's
a
one
fighting
enough.
chance.
If they
Turns
have,
out
like,
no, because two things. One, most of the time when you go to do this, you have to go through pretty intensive training that requires you to meet a couple like stipulations in order to actually get into something where you can get paid to do it.
I mean,
and
I
two,
can fake it. That's easy. I'm good at lying.
the second thing they do is when you give actual answers, they cross-check those against other users. So multiple people are fed the same image, and they report on the same image. And if there are outliers, those people are flagged. And then if that person ends up being like wrong on a whole bunch of stuff, they're kicked off the program, and they have to go back through training.
So we need like a lot of us.
A lot of people.
Yeah,
Like
so
us
many.
and all our listeners.
We need like
Yeah.
the country of India.
That's a lot of people.
That's how many listeners we have, right?
So
It's close.
I'm assuming that's like what big AI companies are doing, like OpenAI or whatever. But that same thing, the smaller, like independent, like locally run large language models, they use AI to do that. So they have AI train their AI. So they train their local models off of like ChatGPT answers.
Yep.
For
Well,
things.
because they know that ChatGPT is getting the same training on its back
Yeah.
end that they want to receive
so
with their
funny.
language model. It's very
Train
interesting.
AI with AI.
What's
Yeah.
crazy about this whole
That's
thing
weird.
is like these contracts pay like a maximum of like a couple dollars an hour. So
Heck yeah.
this is not like a full-time gig. This is like you do it on the side, or a lot of it's being outsourced to other countries where labor costs are much, much lower, and people can just do it to train these
It's like
AI models.
Mechanical Turk from Amazon.
Yeah,
Ever seen
that's
that?
exactly what I was thinking.
Yep.
That's been around for ages.
The other note I wanted to make to just kind of go back to the actors thing. Did you guys know that The Rock has it stipulated in his contract that he can't lose a fight on screen?
Oh my gosh.
That's embarrassing.
Dumb.
It's so good.
Oh,
Is that
man.
why?
Does he
in-
lose fights off screen sometimes?
He can lose them off screen, but he cannot lose a fight on screen. And
I think
apparently this is like a regular occurrence in his contracts when he signs on for movies.
It's good
I was
stuff.
gonna say that would explain why in Fast 5 when he confronts Dom and like there's like this whole thing of just being like, oh yeah, you know, like let's fight right now, like shoot out in Brazil or whatever, and like he has to not start the fight. He like, you know, like all of the street racers pull out guns and his buddy's like, hey man, let's not do this, let's come back later. And so that might be why that's there, is because like that would have been a fight that he would have lost
I mean, maybe.
to like keep him in,
mean-
you know, keep the stakes going, and they were just like, nah, he can't start the fight then.
He eventually fights him, but they kind of like they just draw over and over again, right?
That's all it is. And he,
Dom also
surely-
probably can't lose. if I
Okay,
had to
so
guess.
Probably true.
weirdly enough, Vin Diesel and Jason Statham, they don't have like that specific stipulation in their contract, but their contracts are negotiated to limit the number of punches and how injured they become on screen.
Sick.
Actors are
Surely
fucking
in
weird.
Black Adam, he
Uh-huh.
loses some fight to make the show interesting, right?
In
Caleb,
what?
that movie bombed.
Are you talking about
Yeah,
I
Black
don't know
Adam?
if it was
I
interesting.
did bring up Black Adam, yeah.
No, he doesn't lose a fight. Get out of here. He does not lose a
Okay.
fight in that
He's
show.
basically a god.
I mean,
in
that
that movie.
explains
Yeah, he's
why the
just
show's
invincible.
terrible, I guess.
So, what would have happened if they did make a Black Adam 2 and Superman was in it? Like,
He would've
Superman
beat
wins,
Zeus.
right?
He would just beat Superman.
Oh my gosh.
Or he just
You
loses
know,
off
they,
screen.
they become friends. They fight.
Yeah.
They realize they're not so different, you and I.
Yeah.
They make out.
Well, I mean,
Bam.
you know.
but at that
Family.
point, it'd be fully bearded, not just mustached Henry Cavill
Yeah.
fighting. And so, like, you know, you can just tell, like, he's just gonna lose. It's Black Adam, man.
Hmm. I
Anyway.
see.
Okay, let's move on to a couple things in video game realm. And Alex, you know what? I
Yeah.
think I should roll right into a couple things I may have highlighted earlier on in the news section. But should we talk about Minecraft being in Minecraft?
Yeah, this is actually a really old story, but I only saw it recently, and I
Wow,
thought it was
thanks.
very
This
interesting.
was
Glad.
good.
Great,
Just
great.
highly relevant content for
Do you
our
guys know-
1.6 billion listeners.
You guys know you can do like stuff with redstone in Minecraft, and people get ridiculous with it to the point where they make like simple computers and whatnot.
Sorry, what's
Apparently-
Minecraft?
Oh my gosh. Apparently some dude made a redstone computer and then like played Minecraft on it in Minecraft.
It's pretty awesome.
Mineception.
I don't even
That's
know how
all I
that could
really
work.
had to, I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's stupid and ridiculous.
That
It is
sounds
And
stupid.
everybody
wild.
had to know about
Ridiculous.
it. So much work, so much effort. For
How does,
what?
how does that work?
It just does, like you can make circuits with redstone.
Sure. But
And basically you can form transistors, and then at some point you keep on adding on to that. You get to a point where it's a computer running in there, and you'd
so
run
he
Minecraft on
essentially
it.
with redstone just coded Minecraft.
Basically, I coded it in binary using
Yeah.
redstone.
I mean, like
That's-
literally, right?
Yeah.
Do you think
Easy.
do you think the Cities Skylines guy could do that? Is that the game where it's coded completely in binary or assembly? What is the game that's
You were
completely
thinking of
programmed in
Roller
assembly?
Coaster Tycoon,
Roller
the first
Coaster
one.
Tycoon.
I
Yeah.
think.
Oh.
What?
There we go.
He wrote it in assembly. Yeah, this.
Yeah,
I
in
feel
assembly.
like we talked about this
Yeah.
a while ago.
He wrote
It's-
it in assembly. Why?
It's wild.
Yikes.
Why not? Because he could.
Why
That's why
not?
it runs
A
so
lot of
freaking
reasons.
lean, dude.
Actually,
Wow.
it probably was so that way it would run
Super
better.
smooth.
That
Yeah.
sounds awful.
Doesn't it
Yeah,
sound
it would be
awful?
awful.
Oh my gosh.
People are crazy. I genuinely don't understand people.
Yeah.
In
You are
other,
people.
other news of children's video games, Roblox. I bring up Roblox occasionally because the world of Roblox baffles me.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that play it. But there's this story that started getting around recently where they got some new controversies about Roblox currency gambling sites.
Are they exploiting children again?
They're exploiting children because of course they are. There's these sites now. Roblox official doesn't condone the sites. They say they're like stealing their stuff or whatever, not allowed. But there are like 6 different websites that run gambling with Robux. And like it's got to be mostly children on there, right? Like it's mostly children that play the game. There's actually a statistic here in the article. 62% of Roblox users are under 16.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
That's actually lower than I thought it would be. Yeah, it's bad because they're gambling like millions of Robux worth of currency. And like there's a Discord server for this one site, Boxflip, that has a section for quote whales, and you have to have wagered 1 million Robux on the site to be able to enter that area of the Discord channel, and that's equivalent to $12,500 US.
Oh my gosh.
So it's not like small amounts of currency we're talking about. And also they keep on like reaching out to creators to advertise for their sites and stuff like that. The creators almost always are underage.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's an example here of like, here's a 14-year-old and they got an email from one of the gambling sites offering them a sponsorship and like wanting them to gamble on stream for Roblox currency.
I
It's kinda
hate
crazy.
Highly
Roblox.
illegal.
Everything about it. Everything about it, man. I don't understand it.
I don't know how
I'm
it's
too
not
old.
gotten more legal attention.
Man.
So that's my Roblox corner
Thank you, Alex,
for
for that. Hey,
Thank you. Yeah.
this quarter.
yeah, I appreciate that. Can we just start having a Roblox corner like once a quarter, and you can come up with like new news for us? That'd be great. We had quick updates on my Activision Blizzard acquisition. That is
Activision Blizzard Activision.
Blizzard Activision.
Activision Blizzard acquisition from Microsoft. A lot's changed since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
Alex?
The FTC has backed down on their complaint that they filed. So essentially the only thing standing in their way is the UK.
Yeah.
And I think they are trying to meet some agreement with them. I read that if they don't come to an understanding with the UK, then there's a potential that they could spin Activision UK off into its own thing in order to meet their requirements and then still merge with the rest of the company.
Huh.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. They also
Yeah.
They also signed a Call of Duty agreement with Sony.
Yep.
Which is one of the main reasons that I think this was backed off by the FTC.
Well, man, that agreement is kind of like, I feel like Sony dropped the ball on that one because they had offered them an agreement earlier that was like way better. It didn't have any time stipulation or anything like that. It was just like, we're going to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, and Sony refused because they thought that this, like they were going to be able to prevent the merger. And so they just didn't accept that agreement. And then now, like when they were like more sure that the merger was going to go through, they came back with a different agreement that was like, you get 10 years of Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep. Call of Duty, which has made more money. What was the thing it had beaten out in terms of franchise dollars? We were talking about that last time on the podcast. Some major thing.
I think it was a movie. I think it was movies in general or something.
Wild. Worth a ton of money. Yeah, 10 years is not a... you're right. They should have gone with the first deal. But,
yeah.
What happens? You go in there with, like, demands where you're like, no, this just isn't good enough for us. The people who come back after the fact, they're going to be like, okay, well, we'll just change our numbers in support of us now.
I thought I had heard something where, like, if they did make it Xbox exclusive, they would lose like an absurd amount of money just because of the lack of sales. I don't know if that's real. I thought I had heard that.
The PlayStation version is the highest selling version of the game. So if it's not available on PlayStation though, and people want to play Call of Duty, I feel like they'll just buy
an Xbox.
They'll just get it somewhere else. Yeah, like
where else are you gonna get Nicki Minaj on your Xbox or PlayStation? You know,
yeah.
I mean, Microsoft's really more about their service.
She's in the new Call of Duty now. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. That's not a joke. That's a thing. You can play as Nicki Minaj now.
I know the Boys did a crossover. I didn't know Nicki Minaj also did.
It's first person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I mean, hey, I also want to pay money.
You can look at the Minaj.
You can also play like as cats now.
Like the movie?
Like it's not cat girls or cat people. It's like literally like a big cat head in a helmet.
I feel like I did not stop playing Call of Duty that long ago.
Right?
Like what?
I thought I understood the youth.
No, Fortnite 2.0?
For what it's worth, Call of Duty's franchise worth just surpassed the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's what it is.
That's what it was, yeah.
I had to look it back up.
I mean, Microsoft probably doesn't care that much about the loss of sales on PlayStation, right? Because if they put Call of Duty on Game Pass, they're going to get an absurd number of subscribers, and that's what they really care about is their...
Yeah.
I guess that's true. Plus, I mean, honestly, it's Microsoft. If they wanted to, they could probably just buy Sony and just call it a day, you know what I mean? Like, fuck it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That surely would be stopped.
Yeah.
We've talked about this multiple times,
unless someone wrote a nice letter.
We have talked multiple times about like the size of Sony versus the size of Microsoft and how it's just like laughable in comparison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, as soon as they were like, we're going to buy Blizzard, it's like, geez, Microsoft has just been fucking around. They don't give a shit. They can buy and sell this whole industry twice.
They can.
Yeah.
They're worth like 15 times as much as Sony or something like that. It's like insane.
Yeah, it frankly feels like Steve Microsoft is just like, yeah, I like Halo. I like video games. Let's do some video games. Whatever.
Oh, I heard that Overwatch is dying. Maybe I should buy that real fast.
Yeah, speaking of Overwatch. That's a good transition, Caleb. Thank you. Speaking of Overwatch, let's talk a little bit about how Overwatch League is, what's one way to put it? Dead?
Thanks for calling out the good transition. That's nice.
Yeah, it's surprising no one, I guess. Like, Overwatch League has not done well for its whole run. I enjoyed Season 1. Season 1?
Season 2 was not the worst.
I believe
and yeah, after that, I think it went down.
I feel like they just made a lot of misplays, but now basically a deal came out where it's like all the teams are going to get together and vote, and if they decide to no longer do Overwatch League, they each get $6 million. And if they don't, then they just keep losing
each
money doing
player
Overwatch League.
or each
team.
I was
Okay.
gonna say each player gets $6
Not
million.
The players ain't voting. Nobody gives a shit about the players. Let's be
Yeah.
clear about this. This is about the owners.
Yeah.
The owners are like, do we think we can squeeze more than 6 million out of this somehow?
I think they've all been bleeding money since the moment
Yep,
they bought it.
probably.
I
Yep.
think Blizzard sold them high and we're like, you're going to make so much money. And ever since, it's just been... pew,
I mean, knowing
Why?
knowing the expansion team that they did in DC and the amount of money that he had to, I'm forgetting the name of the guy that bought it, but he's also the dude that owns the Washington fucking Post. But he like
It's a
the
new
amount of
newspaper I haven't heard of before.
but like the amount of money that he had to spend to do all of it or whatever, it was hundreds of millions of dollars to make the expansion. And he said multiple times, he was like, yeah, I think I'm just getting in on the ground floor and that this is going to work out for, in a couple of years, I'll make my money back. And then, I'll be the owner of, the largest esports team in DC. And that just hasn't happened. So I have to assume that all of them are just bleeding cash.
Yeah.
Why does Blizzard want to make this deal?
I think Blizzard's also losing money doing Overwatch League stuff. Because
Just running it.
Running it, yeah, because they've got like commentators and stuff that they got to pay. They're probably not
Yeah,
paying
that's
them
true.
a ton,
Yeah.
but they're running stuff. Presumably, they're
Yeah.
paying someone to do something.
Man,
Right.
I
They're-
hate having to pay working class people. It is just
I
the
know.
worst. isn't it?
Yeah, why? Can we get ChatGPT to do it, please?
Yes.
I'm so sick. They come in and they just smell poor.
Bro,
I don't like it. Get them
have
out of
you-
here.
Have you seen the AI announcers in Street Fighter 6? We
Oh
don't,
my
even
gosh.
we don't even need people anymore.
That's so true. But yeah, so I mean, just that's what Overwatch needs is more bad press.
Yeah, yeah.
At
I
this
mean, I
point.
think
Honestly,
Hey,
at
the
this
other
point,
thing is-
some PvE at some point.
I
Right,
hope
guys?
this game crashes and freaking burns at this point.
I
Wow.
think it is.
They deserve
Yeah.
it too.
They
Really.
deserve it
Wow.
so much.
So
You disagree?
Along with this announcement, they also announced they're coming to Steam. So they're launching on
that's-
Steam
yeah.
on August 10th.
True.
Cool.
I
I mean-
have to assume that I think the game has already been dying, and then the league was just like, yeah, this is also going, we just need to stop doing this. And then between those two things, that's just, nails in coffins. I think you've just signaled that this is a dead game.
I think this next season is make or break for them. Moving to Steam, and they're putting out PvE content.
They're 3-story missions, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, this is either going to give them enough of a bump that they go, okay, we can keep putting money towards Overwatch, or they go, this is a sunk cost, cut it off, kill it.
This
Just
is
let
a sunk
it, let
cost,
it
which
die.
means we need to continue because we've already spent so much money.
Like,
Not how that works.
it's a shame, man. Overwatch, I feel like Overwatch was something special, and they just mishandled it over and over
Yep.
and over
Yep.
again, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
as much as they have screwed up, I still really like playing it. I don't know. I still
don't
play it
anymore.
most days.
I like
Honestly-
playing it very occasionally.
I do my dailies like almost every day.
Never.
Wow.
Never.
I
no
have
desire.
not played it in a long
No battle
time.
passes. Nope. I'm not.
Battle Pass kind of killed it for me. It
Yep.
just, man, I feel like if they had handled it, because they were literally like so popular at launch, People loved to play it. They loved the characters. They loved the story. And it was like, if they just kept that up, just supported it from the start like they fucking meant it.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
don't know.
profitable,
It's-
Jake.
Well, it could have been. If they made it a live service when they fucking launched, they'd be sitting on a mountain of cash.
What's amazing too is Overwatch did something that no other game has really done before it. They capitalized on like a segment that felt so unique, and the ability to make a first-person shooter feel like you're playing the character just by changing the animations of the arms or appendages you can see on screen is mind-boggling to me.
As a first-person shooter, that's for people that don't like first-person shooters. You've got Mercy, who doesn't play like Lucio,
Yeah.
who doesn't play like Anna, who doesn't play like Reinhardt. Like, so many people like so many different games, and they could all come and find something that they enjoyed here.
I mean, I think the other thing is just like Overwatch when it came out, to be honest, was a cultural phenomenon. Like, it worked so well. It was such a cool thing. Like, the fact that you were able to get t-shirts and all of this stuff and merchandise and Overwatch fucking backpacks. There was a cereal. There was an Overwatch fucking cereal. And so, like, I mean, like, it's such a huge thing that, like, it was like, wow, you made something that really, like, touched a lot of gamers and a lot of people resonated with, and then you just mishandled it completely and just being like, what if we just milk it dry and not support it and not make anybody like this game anymore? And it's just like, fam, how did you fuck this up this badly? Like, all you had to do was just like, hey, we made this game and people are giving us money, and you're like, all right, cool, keep doing that. I don't know.
It's the only purely multiplayer game that has won Game of the Year from the Game Awards.
Oh, wow.
Good to know.
So,
That's crazy.
That is wild.
2016 Game of the Year. The move to Steam, like, who cares, Overwatch, Steam, whatever, is more interesting to me because Blizzard games on Steam. Like, are they just going to do that now? Like, are they going to put Diablo over there?
I would.
Battle.net going away at some point? Is this
I
because
bet.
of the Microsoft
I
acquisition?
bet with the acquisition, Battle.net's gone.
I'll believe it. I mean, just more people are going to use Steam than are ever going to use Battle.net.
Yep.
If I've ever been in favor of like some sort of monopolistic venture, it's that all games should be on Steam.
Yes, please.
Wow.
I hate other game launcher apps. They're all freaking garbage. I want nothing to do with any of them. I want everything to be on Steam, and I'll support it all day long.
Yeah. It's a good
I
call.
mean, they don't run as well. None of your other games are there. Like, it works really well. Why?
I want everything on the
fight
Microsoft Store.
Steam?
You gotta just like clog up your RAM running like all these different launchers, because like, what if you want to play something else? Or you spend time launching them and closing them constantly? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
I think my favorite is when it's on Steam,
Quote,
but it
unquote.
launches the second launcher.
Ubisoft.
Yeah.
So
Fuck, I
annoying.
love
When
that
you go-
so much.
When you go to play Jedi Survivor, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
bloop, it pops up for like a second,
Oh
and then
my
it just
gosh.
like, nope, you know
minimizes.
it's there in the background.
It's the
Freaking
worst, man.
Ubisoft's launcher showing its face. It's like, jump
You're
scare.
like, I can't play this game anymore.
They have said that they're not going to do that with Overwatch. I didn't think they would, because like Call of Duty's on there and it doesn't do that, but
Yeah,
they clarify that it'll launch natively.
That's good.
Oh, that's good.
that's good. That's good. Other video game news: Red Dead Redemption 1 getting a remake.
Yeah, there's a rumor. I think it's because they registered like a domain in like South Korea or something. But there's a rumor that they're actually remaking Red Dead Redemption 1, which I think is really exciting.
What freaking psychopaths on the internet have like trackers on registered domains so that they can be the first person to report this?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And I hope it's like something like really obscure too. Like, it's not Red Dead Redemption remake. It's like, RDR remake XXY3 412 dot. What is it? South Korea? Is that what you said?
It's
.kr.
the South Korean
KR,
ratings board.
Oh, there you go.
Gave Red Dead Redemption a new age rating.
I think the South Korean ratings board is like notorious for leaking everything. So
man.
that's probably real.
I bet. I mean,
I-
Red Dead Redemption 2 was huge.
Yeah.
They're just like
They probably got a
revisiting
lot
Red Dead
of-
Redemption 1, which Red Dead Redemption 1 is a PS3 game, which basically means it's impossible to play. Like, you can't play it anymore.
Like, I will say I remember parts of the story of 1 and it being entertaining, and so if you're giving me the gameplay of 2 with the story of 1, might not be that bad.
Honestly,
would
I
like
think
to
it would be
reverse it.
amazing.
I would like
absolutely.
the gameplay of 1 with a story of 1. Or the story of 2. I would take that. Gameplay of 1 with story of 2. Remake 2.
I don't know. The story of 2 I remember being really dumb because every single time, I got a plan, Arthur, I got a plan, and
I
it's
don't
the same
know.
fucking plan every
I'm
time, and
not
it never
a-
works.
I'm not an authority on Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's often cited as like the greatest like narrative in video games.
Yeah.
It is
Or
the
like-
stupidest narrative in
I mean,
video games.
it's
Rock
almost like they're
is
doing
so
like a
offended right
thing with the plans being bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine.
I don't really like that game, but I will say that's the thing that people always say is like the story experience and like embodying the character is like
Oh, the
unmatched.
immersiveness off the fucking charts. So good.
It is definitely worth revisiting, I would say. And
Yeah.
the story definitely doesn't come together until a bit later on.
I have
How
never
late?
played.
I have like
the first
so
one.
many hours in that game, and I was like, nah, I can't fucking do this anymore. It's just another town and another
Yeah.
dumb plan that doesn't fucking work. And then I'm just gonna go to the next town, and it's the same fucking thing until eventually Morgan realizes that this dude is a jackass and should just die. Like, what the fuck?
Goodness gracious. Yeah, I'm sure there's tons and tons of people that never played the first one that played the second one because it was
Yeah,
the second one
it's
was
a-
just so huge.
It's a prequel as well. You don't need to play the first one.
Huge.
Also in video games, we should probably talk about Riot's. I mean, long awaited. Can we say long awaited? This has been
Yeah, it's been,
been a
in
while.
development for a long
development
time.
for a while.
Yeah. So
Valorant?
Yeah, Valorant. Actually, big update.
Project L is their fighting game. And also, I found out, the 420th board game on Board Game Geek is called Project L. I'm not
That-
even making that up.
okay.
You can
The
look that up
planets
right
are
now.
aligning.
Wow.
Weird.
Insane.
Speaking of Valorant, I think this was announced when they announced Project whatever Valorant was called before Valorant.
Really?
So when they had like their couple of video game projects they were working on, they're all Project whatever.
That's true. Yeah, they did. They did announce it at the same time.
Yeah. So it's
but
been a long time.
They
Project
actually showed
A
off
was Valorant.
I was about to say.
Project A.
Yeah. They jumped
This is
from A to
Project L.
L. So
Wow,
there's
they got a
stuff in
lot of
between that
projects
they
they
kind of
threw
just
away.
took out.
They're all in
Wow.
development.
Yeah.
But no, they basically got a bunch of content creators out there to come and play it. And so we actually got some impressions on it. It's a 2v2. The one cool feature that I've never seen in a fighting game before, not that I'm like, I guess I'm not exactly an
I'm
authority.
sure it exists somewhere.
You are
but
more of an authority than almost anyone else on this podcast.
I mean, that's
I
fair.
saved Alex, I guess.
But literally, so it's a 2v2, but you can actually do 2 players versus 2 players, where when you tag in, the other player controls the other character.
Oh, that's
sounds so cool.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That seems
Interesting.
so cool. It seems really disorienting.
Yeah.
I feel like I would get tagged in and just fuck up immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm waiting for you to carry me in the next fight night now, man.
Yeah, that's the
Like,
problem.
yeah.
Is that like if I'm playing with Owen, it's like I'm just never gonna tag out. That's the secret. So I'll just play.
Can the secondary character like help with assist moves and stuff?
You can call
Yep.
in assists as well. I don't know how that works with.
I'm pretty
you
sure
know
the
what?
assists are just automatic.
Well, I think does the other player control when they jump in with the assist? I feel like that's
That's what I
how
was
it
guessing.
works.
Maybe
I don't think that.
that would be more interactive.
I don't
don't
think
know.
that's how it works.
Who knows? The
I
game's
think
not
you don't
out
get
yet.
control until you're tagged.
Interesting. Okay.
When Alex and I finally go to Evo, we'll get to play
Yeah.
it there. It's gonna
I'll
be
have it
playable,
at Evo. Yeah.
Uh,
And
but
instantly Jake was like, "We gotta go to Evo now." I was like, "Yeah, sure, sure."
But it looks really cool. The characters they've shown off, as far as I'm aware, are Darius, who's like a dude with an axe. I'm like,
Rutger?
yeah. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Darius
you got it.
Rutger, the,
Yeah.
the country
that's the
singer.
one.
Ari,
Hootie and the
who's like
Blowfish.
a spirit fox mage thing,
Mhm.
and Echo, who's like a time wizard. Or if you've watched Arcane, then he's the guy from Arcane.
Thanks for that.
Is,
Yeah.
is he
You're
in
welcome.
Arcane?
They've also
Yeah.
shown video of Jinx, but I don't think Jinx was playable for the content creators because I didn't see anybody
Yeah.
playing Jinx.
Yeah, I didn't see any content.
And who
for
wouldn't
her.
be playing Jinx? Come on. Like,
Jinx
True.
from Arcane, right?
yeah, if she was playable, everybody's playing her.
Yeah.
But no, hopefully we still don't know a release date at all. But I think it's really exciting to get like a AAA free to play fighting game. I think that's
The
really
fact
cool.
that they brought
Mhm.
people out to play it, and the fact that creators have like seen it at this point, and that they're showing it at Evo. I don't know. It's not as far off as I thought. I guess maybe next year we'll get a beta or something.
I was thinking next year might be a good time. I bet at Evo they announce a beta. That's my guess.
I imagine this will be a game that comes out in like a limited beta and then an open beta and then just kind of stays in open beta indefinitely
Yeah.
and rolls into what they consider release at some point.
I could see that. I mean, that's basically how League worked, I think.
Is
They
it?
just like put in beta and it was in beta for a long time, and then eventually they were like, "Hey, it's out," and it was like, "Yeah, whatever." Like we've been playing 9.99, whatever.
I could see
Valorant
them
didn't
releasing
really
with
follow
like
that, right?
well, how
No,
did
it had
Valorant
a
work?
more closed beta, open beta release.
Yeah.
That's true.
Valorant seemed like it came out really fast.
Yeah.
It definitely did.
Wow, it's basically CS:GO reskin, so not much
Yeah,
really
sure.
development needed there.
I could see them releasing this with like a really small roster
Oh,
and
sure.
just build off of it.
I mean, what? You don't need a huge roster. You launch it with 6 characters.
Yeah.
It's literally all you need. And then every time you release a new character, people are like, "Oh shit, you know,
Got to
Lux
spend
is in
my
it now."
Riot bucks.
Yeah, gotta spend my Roblox.
For what it's worth for Valorant, it was teased in October of 2019 and came out in June of 2020.
Wow.
Is it still in beta?
No.
Now it's out,
Okay.
baby.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
I didn't know if
fast.
it was like it was
Real
a situation
fast.
where like 6 years after launch, Project L is going to be like Project L Reborn, like officially coming out of beta. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
Not referencing any specific games, are you?
No. Come on, Alex. Come on.
Kind of alongside all this, League of Legends is running, and I think Legends of Runeterra and Teamfight Tactics, all the League stuff, is running like a Soul Fighter event that has a bunch of fighting game inspired skins and stuff for a bunch of the characters and stuff.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool. Is
That's cool.
Ryu finally in League? Can I play Ken?
Not
in
yet.
mid?
They
No,
did just
damn.
release a new character though, but he's a wolf, so not very Ryu like.
Yeah,
Man.
When you say
What?
Demon
Who's got that
Warwick?
dog in him though?
No, there's a new wolf.
A new
Not
wolf?
Warwick. This one's a very wolf-like wolf, not a very human-like wolf.
What is that?
Makes a wolf
I don't
like
know what's
wolf.
happening at all.
Oh, they also said with the duos mode, you could play, if you wanted, you could play 2v1. So like you can mix up like
Oh, good.
Who's
You guys can face off
controlling
against
what?
Brendan.
yeah.
Here's the
Does he
problem
get
with
2
that,
characters
though.
or does he just get 1?
He
No,
gets
Brendan
2.
just gets one character. Just one
How
character.
is if one person is if one person gets to control 2 players versus 2 people controlling 2 characters, I feel like the one has a huge advantage.
Yeah, I feel like
Maybe.
You can actually like combo with
Ooh, there you
yourself.
go.
He,
Force
like,
Brendan
knows when he's about
play
to hit the
with
button.
somebody else,
I-
and then
honestly,
maybe somebody can beat him.
That's the handicap. You put
Yeah.
a bad player on his team.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
play
yeah,
with
yeah.
Brendan.
Yeah,
He'll
me,
still win somehow.
This will be so good for Fight Night because it's going to be free to play. So everybody has to
Yes.
try it once.
it's true.
It's a
Obligated.
requirement.
Mm-hmm.
24-hour
Alright.
stream. 23 hours of Project L. 1 hour of Dragon Ball The Breakers.
Oh
yes,
my God.
yes.
The perfect
Damn.
stream.
But
right, since
when are
we're
we going to play
approaching-
Penguin Heist, though?
Since we're approaching November, I nominate that Alex is not allowed to suggest random games from his Steam library to fill up extra hours this
Oh
year.
boy.
All
the
I'm
heck?
going to say is any game that's going on the 24-hour stream, someone has to have played for at least
Yes.
1 hour.
Yes, I agree.
Whatever.
1
Yes.
hour played.
Most
and
of the
verified
games,
that it's good.
listen, most of the games that I would
Listen.
suggest, you can't just play by yourself. Like you have to have a bunch
Play
of
it
people.
by yourself.
True.
I don't
You
care.
gotta-
Find
I'll,
a random.
I'll
1
try
hour.
games with you, Alex.
Like the one that ended up being halfway decent, the one where you're like pretend to be an NPC. How am I supposed to
Oh,
play
yeah.
by
Sure.
myself?
That's cool.
That's true. That's true.
Trick someone else into playing it with you.
How am I
I
supposed to
don't
play by
know.
myself?
In
Now,
theory,
could I have tried
like
the
a
penguin
night.
game in advance? Yeah, I suppose I could have tried that in advance and realized.
Halfway through the tutorial, it's
wait.
like, wow, this is not good.
Did you think the Penguin game wasn't good? Because I thought that was like one of the
I
best
thought it
games we
was-
played
yeah.
all stream.
Get
It
out
was
of
one of the
here.
highlights for sure.
I stayed alive
Nah.
for so long shooting
Could
zombie
I-
penguins.
Could I have played Dragon Ball The Breakers with randoms? Yeah, I guess I could have.
I mean, you know, there is this possibility that we could just have like a night that we like, you know, I don't know, make sure that the streams function and we play the games to make sure
I
that
feel
they're
like this has
good.
been advocated for over the years.
Maybe like,
Yeah.
you know, like
We've done pretty good
figure
about
out
that,
when
though.
we're gonna schedule stuff, like have some sort of conversation and
I think
planning
the chaos
period.
adds to the 24-hour stream, I think.
It adds a little bit. We've gotten much better. And you know, I was thinking about the Dragon Ball Breakers thing, and the one like the silver lining, I will say, is that the one guy who joined, who never gets to play against anybody in Dragon Ball Breakers, just freaking wiped the floor with
Just
all.
destroyed
That was
us.
the
Yeah.
highlight of his Dragon Ball Breakers time.
The silver lining was we turned that game off and then we're all like, hey, we're in the window to refund this on Steam. So we all bought it like right before the stream. Refund that bad boy.
Man.
I think I only kept one game from the stream from last year. I think I literally refunded most of the games.
I think I don't think I really bought that many games for the stream. I think I own most of them already. Last thing in video games, we should probably talk about a game that multiple of you guys have been playing, which is Oxenfree 2.
Yes.
Oxenfree 2.
The sequel to Oxenfree, obviously.
Oh, I thought it was a prequel.
Is this
No, it's
Ollie?
not. It is
Ollie?
Oxenfree. This was actually my game of the year it came out.
Wouldn't
and
the sequel
Oh.
be Oxen Paid?
No, it's still free.
We're caged, oxen caged.
No.
That's it. That's all we got for you guys.
Yep. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Sorry, I was going for
Oxen Range.
I was going for the George McFly laugh from Back to the
You
Future.
started it, but then you lost it.
That's all I got.
Think McFly.
Yeah, think.
It was your game of the year, Jake.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's really good. I like it a lot. The real highlight is the dialogue. It has a system where like you're sort of exploring this island, and as you're going, you're kind of talking to your NPC companion, and basically like you have little like thought bubbles that decide like how you're going to respond to them. And the dialogue's just really well written, really well acted, and it's got like a supernatural twist that I always think is really fun. I don't want to get too into spoilers, especially since one of us at least has it and hasn't finished it somehow.
I'm like
Yeah.
halfway through.
Yeah, whatever.
I got busy.
But it's really good. I don't think I like it as much as the first game.
I
Yeah.
already feel that way.
Yeah, the first game, I mean, it's not really fair. The first game, I went into it completely blind, not knowing what it was, so everything was, like, really surprising, and I feel like it leaned more into, like, the horror aspect,
Yeah.
whereas this
You
doesn't
get
so
a little
much.
bit of that, but not as much, I
A
think.
tiny bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the story, I think, in the first one had a more like meta story to tell.
Mm.
And I don't get that from this one so far. Maybe the ending will change my mind on that, but
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis. The thing I found most interesting about this game, for me personally, obviously the first game came out quite a few years ago, and it was basically focused on like a group of teenagers, whereas this is more focused on people who are a little more grown up, probably closer to the age that I am right now. So
Yeah.
from that perspective, I found it really interesting. It almost felt like the series grew up with me a little bit. Like, obviously, it's
Yeah.
just 2 games, but
It's
I
like
thought
Harry
it was
Potter.
really cool. Yeah, to play it and be like, oh, all these kids trying to find their way into adulthood. That's kind of where I was at. Now,
This is why you're going to like the
Yeah.
new season of Stranger Things. I don't understand why you are so
They're all
into it.
adults.
when I finally see them and they're 45 years
Yeah.
old, and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, it's literally me.
I really enjoyed how they referenced the original game and brought this one into the continuity.
For the longest time, I did not think I would be hearing anything about the first game.
Yeah.
So that was a very pleasant surprise for me when things from the first game started coming up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I should have. Alex posted this glorious video about like summing up the first game, and I didn't watch that until after I finished the second game. So like I watched it and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
I
really
feel like there's
cool."
a lot of stuff out the gate they talk about that's
You did
reference-
not-
There are little
referential to the
things
first
here and
game.
there, yeah.
Small
You
stuff,
don't.
yeah, for
you
sure.
don't need it. It
Yeah, yeah.
definitely helps though.
Yeah. I mean, they're just like names that they drop and stuff that like if
Yeah.
you don't remember them, like
Mhm.
mean nothing and kind of just fly by.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that where like the way they talked about something or the way they interacted with something, I'm like, this must be from the first game. I don't remember it at all, but
Yeah.
it must
They didn't have like those Final Fantasy world-based tips where you walked up and started having conversations. You could click on it and be like, "Oh, that's what the
yeah.
word's from."
Tell me who this is, and then that gives you the entire backstory.
Yeah.
Pause the
That would have
cutscene.
been nice.
Yeah.
Would have been nice. I'll say that. It also, I think, it has a really interesting ending. I feel like a lot of times games that have games with multiple endings tend to be very like, did you get the good ending or the bad ending? Whereas this one was one where I came at and I was like, it was one where they were like, here's the ending, what do you want to do? And I was like, I had to like walk away and think about it for a while because I was like, it's really, I thought it was really well done personally.
I didn't really think about it that much. I knew what I wanted to do immediately.
I'll message you. I'm curious what ending you did. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought it was really well done. Also, the vibes are immaculate.
Yes.
Soundtrack's really good. I've listened to the soundtrack on Spotify post finishing it. So
also, I don't know what the art style is, but I love it.
I won't spoil anything, but the sequence in the church,
yes.
really cool. Really cool. Really enjoyed
You're not that far from the end.
yeah,
That's like the last thing I did.
You're like right there.
You're like pretty close to the end.
You could have finished it by the time we got to this
you guys
part in
had
the
like
script.
7.5. I thought it was close, but then I saw the difference in the hours, and I was like, I can't be anywhere near.
I mean, you probably have like less than an hour.
Wow.
If I had to guess.
Man.
I mean, at the rate you're playing, I would say maybe like an hour and a half, maybe 2.
Okay.
You think?
From there,
Depends on
maybe.
how much you explore.
Yeah.
I mean, I explore everything. I feel like.
Not good enough, though.
Apparently not. I mean, I found a lot of the papers. I don't know if I found all of them. I think I'm missing one from one of the chapters, but...
Cool.
But yeah, Oxenfree 2. Check it out. It's good shit. It's also pretty cheap, I think, on Steam.
Yeah.
I think I got it for $15.
That sounds right.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was like 25% off.
It's
just
20
got
bucks
really excited
right
about
now.
Yeah,
No,
it's
but
20
yeah.
I remember being like freaked out about it because it's a $20 game and they introduced it at $15.
Yeah, it was
Really
discounted
weird me.
the day it came out. And I was, because literally I was like, oh, I should pick that up, but I'll wait for it to be on sale. And then I looked, I was like, it's on sale now.
Wait,
the
isn't
day
that a
it comes
pretty?
out.
Isn't that a pretty common thing with Steam anymore? Though they have
is
like
lately.
They
week
usually
of
do,
launch
like-
sale on
usually
indie
like
titles.
15%.
Yeah.
Okay.
10 or 15. This was 25% off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right out the gate.
Even $20 for a game this good is excellent.
All right, well, we were going to roll right into what you've been playing lately, but Chad would like us to hit a fork in the road where we talk about women's tackle football. So let's go.
What?
What?
Can we talk? Hold on. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. We were going to go and talk about what you've been playing lately, but instead, Chad would like us to take a detour and talk about women's tackle football.
Women's tackle football, huh?
Yeah, the KC Storm. You know that's a team in Kansas City of tackle football players, right?
I did not. Is that what you think I was gonna
The way you
talk about?
capitalized it, it does look like maybe it's the name of a team.
Well, somebody
I
also left an O at the end, so it's
I assumed
Stormo.
you were talking about the actual storm here, but when I was like thinking about this, I was like, all right, how can I transition this? And I was just looking up random stuff, and I was like, oh, there's actually a KC Storm team. It's a women's tackle football team formed in 2004.
So is that going
This
to be
perfect.
our? You're gonna make that our photo for this week, right?
Yes,
It's the
Kansas
KC Storm.
Yes, absolutely.
Make sure you have a big tree that's fallen over also in the image.
Oh
Very
god!
helpful.
All right, yeah. So there was a storm that happened in Kansas City area. What was it like last Friday? It was the 14th, wasn't it? No, it was the 21st. It was definitely last Friday.
For reference, those are the two images that come up when you search KC Storm.
This is good stuff right there.
Literally the first two images.
Why is this the same image twice?
So it was definitely July 14th. We lost power. There was 80 to 120 mile per hour winds. Aaron has installed a AC unit in my window. It stayed.
Yeah, over engineering, baby.
Very good engineering on his part. There was tons of lightning. It literally, like, if you guys remember, Thor's
Thanos.
scene Thor scene when he came back with his new axe and he just freaking wiped it looked like that outside.
When he's in Wakanda,
Yeah, it was
and he
crazy.
does a little jump attack thing.
Yeah,
I
there's
knew
just
exactly-
lightning everywhere.
Mhm,
It looked like that. I literally watched a tree explode across the park off in the distance. Like it was crazy.
Awesome.
186,000 people were without power. They had 7,000 teams working around the clock. They also asked states outside to come and help: Wisconsin, Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois, Oklahoma, and Arkansas.
They had groups from all over helping deal with the.
It's crazy. Literally, Kate and I drove like the same day that the storm happened, or maybe it was like the day after, just to we needed food and we needed to like make sure that we had a litter box because we have a powered one and we had no power. We needed some other things that we needed to pick up, so we went out to Target. It was on. Chick-fil-A was the only thing open, so there was an absolute unit of a line of people getting fed from the neighborhood. And people joke about how Chick-fil-A is a military operation, and I wholeheartedly believe it is after seeing what happened, where streetlights are out, everything's off around them, and then they're still working. I'm like,
there's not even. You go to Chick-fil-A, there's not even a generator visible on their building, and yet somehow they have power. You're like,
it was wild.
all right, this is divine. Like there is some divine interaction here, creating power for this establishment.
Yeah, so it was reported that 500 poles were severely damaged, and some were uprooted entirely. And this happened on like Friday, which was the 14th, I believe. Yes, and then people were still without power, 11,800 Monday morning. But they reported that like 93% over that weekend like got power restored, which is kind of crazy.
That's right.
Also, another thing that I saw when I was browsing Reddit is there was an animal shelter, so like a pound, whatever you want to call it, where you could go adopt pets. They lost power, and within 2 hours of the post being up, they had gotten all of the donations that they needed to make sure that they had generators, power, food for the animal, like just everything, like water, like everything. It was great.
Freaking right, baby. People care out here. This is the Midwest.
I actually made a comment. I was like,
pass cars.
I was like, dude, in Virginia, I feel like they would still be asking for donations. Like, this is crazy. Yeah, it's a nice little storm that we had.
Fun little factoid that's like more relevant to me, I guess. But we are actually, because of the storm, getting a second totem pole on our street.
Are you really?
No freaking way.
Have a first
Yes.
totem pole?
It's on the opposite side of the street, 3 houses down. It's not in the front yard. This one's in the backyard. But yes, we're getting a second totem pole. So at this point, my next door neighbor and I, we have decided that this entire street is just going to just really move towards like making sure that global warming is a thing. We're going to cut down all our trees to totem poles, and we're going to be the totem pole street. I want so much carbon released. I don't want any shade for any buildings on the entire street.
Wow.
Contributions, baby. All right. KC Storm. Good women's football team if you guys want to watch tackle football. Really solid. We should also talk about in stuff realm, which this could have been up in news, but it's fine. It's good here.
Yeah, somebody forgot. I'm not going to name any names or anything.
We should talk about the best. And when I say best, I mean just chef's kiss. Best rebranding of a company to ever happen in the history of companies.
Yeah, this was swift as crap. Like, all right, so Elon, I'm pretty sure, tweeted out, if anybody comes up with a design with the letter X, I will use it the next day. Somebody came up with a design, he used it, and now Twitter is being rebranded to X. And so there's a ton of questions around this. One was, what are tweets going to be called? And he said X's. I'm okay. If you go to their site right now, it's still like twitter.com, but the X is there. Like
X.com redirects too to Twitter.
Does it? Okay, because I heard that Xbox actually held the copyright to that because, Xbox.
You might have been thinking of because I read this. Microsoft owns the rights to the use of the X logo as it pertains to like social media platforms or something like that, because Mixer apparently fits that bill with their X logo.
Wow.
Interesting.
So they might push to try to fight that. I don't know.
I also was like questioning, like, what is Twitter Blue going to be called? X Blue? Like, okay. I mean, I just feel so.
It's gonna be called like Express.
I just to me, I'm just like, Twitter was such a good branding for this type. It's like 126, 125 characters that you could, slap on there. It's just kind of random thoughts, little discussions that you have to, do in multiple posts. It's like it's bird chirping back and forth. It's tweets. Now it's going to be X. Like,
I think part of it is, and I don't want to defend Elon.
Okay.
But part of this is that he wants it to be the everything app.
Right.
It's not just tweets anymore. You go there to manage your crypto wallet and to do videos and movies, because there's movies on there now.
Right.
But
right.
man, you can't copyright the letter X, guys.
Yeah.
You can't.
Nope.
Like, you had probably one of the most recognizable brands in the world.
Yeah.
And just like, nah. The letter X. Letter X is cool. Can't copyright it. It's not really going to hold up in court, but you know what? Whatever.
There was a really funny tweet by Dr. Lupo that I read the other day. And he said, "Excuse me, Elon Musk. My 7-year-old wants to watch Minecraft videos on the site. So we typed in X videos on Google, and I applaud you, sir."
Nope, there's the other issue.
Speaking of that, that's an interesting little note there, because X.com is currently banned in Indonesia. So Twitter is not accessible there currently, primarily because the previous owners of X.com were banned for pornography and gambling purposes, and that's restricted in Indonesia. So currently there's no Twitter in Indonesia.
It's almost, good for them. I'm jealous.
Yeah,
that must
honestly,
be nice.
They made it out.
It's almost like
It's
X
like on
is
the other
usually
side.
associated with pornography. And you shouldn't just name a random company after it. I don't know. Maybe it's dumb.
I do think it's interesting and weird that Elon has always wanted to have an X in the name, or somehow involved in his company. SpaceX, he's the Model X with Tesla. Now he's got straight X. His son, I think his name has an X in it.
I was gonna say, what's his son's name? Because I'm pretty
It's
sure there's an
freaking
X
weird.
in there.
Listen,
Yeah.
He
he's
likes the
just
letter,
playing
man.
the
It's
long
favorite
game.
letter.
Okay? The long game is basically porn is going to be accepted across all nations, and everybody is going to advocate for porn from all ages. And so he's just getting ahead of the curve. SpaceX, so it's just going to be like a,
Space porn.
Space porn,
Exactly.
yeah.
And it's just like,
and stuff.
Oh yeah. Here we go. This is Elon's son's name.
Yeah.
Great. Yep.
2
Yeah,
X's in
it's
that. Huh?
Pronounceable.
Yeah.
how do you, is there a, how do you say
I'm
that?
looking for.
There's a guide for how to pronounce it, right?
There is a guide.
Is it something like Belay?
2 things. I read that the logo that they used, that somebody posted, is actually just a $40 font pack, the X that comes out of it.
Is in fact, yeah.
It's almost like
Amazing.
there's only so many ways you can draw an X. It's 2 lines.
If there was a
Go.
post actually where somebody looked up X logos, and there are so many X logos.
The other thing is, just in general, the valuation for Twitter since he's purchased it over the course of a year, they've lost $30 billion in valuation.
What percentage
And-
is that of what they're worth?
I don't know what percentage.
$30 billion in valuation. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Didn't he buy the company for $34 billion?
I think it was more than that.
Smart. It's just smart.
Fact check, Aaron.
It's called business.
But I saw somebody put this in like an understandable context for what it means to lose $30 billion in a year. Yum Brands, which is the parent company that owns KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and some other stuff, they
Pepsi.
are worth $30 billion.
Wow.
So if
They
you
lost the
somehow,
Pizza Hut.
All the Pizza Huts and Taco Bells disappeared.
yeah, so there's 53,000 restaurants, there's 34,000 employees, and they're in 155 different countries. And if somehow you ran all that into the ground in 1 year and had all those places close and all those jobs go away,
Heck yeah.
that would be the equivalent of what Elon Musk has done to Twitter.
He bought it for $44 billion, so he's still got $10 billion there.
Still got
There you
1
go.
billion to go. Only
Yeah.
another, 2 months? And it's gone? 3?
Honestly, I think he's picking up steam. I think next week, I bet.
Yeah.
it'll be
Oh,
gone.
yeah.
You think X is really going to turn it around now?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I'm
Because
sure
before it was
advertisers
always
love
like, you know what?
the change.
People know Twitter. People know the logo. It's got brand recognition. Now it's like X. It's like, what the fuck is that?
What's funny is like the thing
Easy
he wants
Google.
to do with it to be like the everything app. Like Zuckerberg is so much closer to being able to do that right now than he is. Like the Facebook and Instagram and what's the chat one that he has? Is it WeChat? No, WeChat's the Chinese one.
Oh, you're talking
WhatsApp?
about
WhatsApp.
Messenger? Oh.
WhatsApp. Facebook has payment processing and a marketplace. Like you've got the social media, and he's got Threads now, so that's
Yeah, he
like
just put out
the
the
microblogging thing. Like all the stuff that he's trying to do, basically, he's got broken up over multiple companies right now. If they consolidate it into one app, it could be what X is.
Oh, it's like the
Supposed to be.
metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meta, and it's also interesting if you look at Meta's the thing that everybody's trying to emulate is WeChat. I think is the Chinese like super app that has everything in it. Their logo is basically an upside down Meta. Like Meta, like took their logo and flipped it upside down, and that's their logo.
Wow.
Wow.
So they're trying, they're working towards it too, just not as openly.
Heck yeah, I love it.
We live in a society.
Okay, Owen. Tell us about some automated cars.
Well, I mean, speaking of you know, Elon and Twitter and everything, unfortunately I left the day before he I was in San Francisco for the past week, and I left the day before he did all of the Twitter shit. And so if I just stayed one day longer, I could have watched them attempt to take down the Twitter sign from the building in San Francisco and then not be able to do it because they don't have the right permits. And so it's now just Twit? I think it's just Twit. They only got like 2 letters.
Yeah, I think it's just her.
I
would
would
prefer
Twitter
it
down.
was just Twit. That'd be good.
Yeah, be a lot less good for them.
Yeah, so you know, missed that part. But while I was there, the interesting thing that I did notice, and you know, for people that don't travel that much, like every other car in San Francisco is an automated car, and not like fully automated, no one driving. Like it is so many. And I know that, you know, like, hey, California's got a lot of rules and they're trying to phase out all the gas guzzling cars and everything and a lot of electric cars and stuff like that. And, you know, I know that, you know, there's been a lot of talk about automated cars, and they're like, oh yeah, I know we're like in the testing phase or whatever. But like, they're everywhere, man. That's not the testing phase. That's like we have shown up and taken the fuck over levels of automation. And I was like, oh, this is just like a thing here. And when I was taking lifts places, the Lyft drivers were like, oh man, like while you're here, you gotta jump into the automated car, like because they're basically just doing ride sharing. And so they're like, oh, if you haven't done it, you know, download the app. You have to do it while you're here. And I was just like...
They're just advocating for them to not have a job?
Yeah, pretty much. But also, like, I was like, I don't know if I trust being in an automated car. Like, it just seems way too weird. Like, you know, coming back from San Francisco to the East Coast and just being like, okay, I've gone from a place where every single car is electric, basically, to the East Coast where I'd say probably 75% of the cars are still gas cars. Like, there's a lot of old cars here. We haven't done this whole, like, electric push. So we haven't even gotten there, let alone the automation end of it. And I was like, fam, I don't know if I can fucking do this. Like... that just seems weird to me.
The other big push there, though, is hydrogen vehicles. That is a major thing in California. They have a ton of hydrogen fill stations. One of my coworkers lives out there. He has a hydrogen car. It's like incredibly efficient, weird. It's like, if you think about a hydrogen car, you're like, that's got to be weird. It's burning some sort of, like, it's got to have some sort of gas that it's outputting.
Well, it just explodes.
It's water. No, it's just water. That's what it produces, water.
I know it produces water, but I'm just, you know, the reason why we don't have blimps is because they explode, right? Isn't that like a thing? Isn't
different states of hydrogen, but yes. Yes, this is more like a fuel, like a actual
Listen,
liquid.
we have 25 working blimps in the world. Thank you.
Okay.
We have
My
25
bad.
working blimps.
That seems so
Yeah.
small.
That does
How
seem
many
really
of them are
small.
full of hydrogen?
They explode.
Probably
I'm gonna
none
hope
of them.
none.
What do you mean
I
that
imagine
seems small?
none.
You said it yourself.
You said we don't have blimps, so I was just correcting. We have 25 working
We
blimps
got
in the
25
world.
blimps in
And
the
I'm pretty
world.
sure there's some contest going on to get into the Goodyear blimp.
Heck yeah.
Um,
All right, so automated cars, and that rolls us right into Owen. What have you been playing lately? And by the way, we're already pushing on time here, so I'm going to put a time limit on everybody, okay?
okay, yeah, cool. I was in San Francisco, so I didn't play a lot of video games. I played Pokemon Go because I was trying to figure out where the fuck to go, and I was catching Pokemon while I was doing it. It was fun. Anyway, continue.
Woo!
Jesus.
Nicely done.
It's not a race, guys.
I'm succinct,
Was
goddammit.
Pokemon Go good? Was there anything new in it?
There is new. They just added routes. Unfortunately,
What
they
was
added
that?
it.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got some like fudge. It's some fudge stuck to the top of your mouth.
Sorry,
I've
it's
seen
a-
some peanut butter while we're
Starburst.
podcasting.
Routes
There's
are they're in Pokemon between the cities. Is their routes? So there's like Route 1, Route 2, Route 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they added routes into Pokemon Go, which is basically just like, hey, someone has mapped a way for you to walk from point A to point B, and if you walk this path that someone else has mapped, you get extra shit for it. Yeah, they did it like again right after I got fucking back. Goddammit. But I think it's kind of a cool idea to like. There, even when I was in San Francisco, I would like have the app open and just be like, "Huh, I wonder what the fuck is over there," and I would just go over there because I saw there was a Pokestop, and I would, or like I'd see something and I go, "What is this?" and I would open the Pokestop on Pokemon Go to tell me what that statue is of, or like an explanation of why this is a monument or like a thing. So that way I could like learn more about the area. And so having like somebody from that area do that, so that way there's like, hey, this is the trail to, you know, go around the monuments in the, you know, in downtown DC, and, you know, here's the trail for that, and this is how you like, I think some of it is just kind of like commercially like places you'd go anyway, but I think some of it could just be like, oh, hey, I've never checked out whatever this trail is going towards, like whatever monument that is, and you can go and check it out. And so I think that's always just like a neat thing of finding things that you are off the beaten path a little bit.
Takes you to places you wouldn't normally go.
Exactly.
Owen, I
of
really
Pokemon-
like it. Wait, what were you gonna say, Chen?
Speaking of Pokemon Go, did you know that there's Pokemon Sleep that just came out?
Mm-hmm.
It's using one of the Pokeball or the Pokemon Go catches or whatever to measure your sleep, and then you can get a Snorlax with a cap on it.
It's like
That's
a,
cute.
Like a sleep app.
it's a sleep app, but it's Pokemon
Yep.
themed, and you can
Yep.
get
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Yep.
Now we can finally all
Just-
sleep.
We
You
gotta-
only need to sleep for an hour and a half for it to count. I put so many air quotes
Excuse me?
around that
It's pretty small
because
sleep.
yeah, it also, you don't have to be fucking near it. So you just have to say, I'm sleeping, and you can stick it in a drawer, walk away, come back 2 hours later, open the drawer, and it goes,
Bro.
wow, you had such good sleep.
Man.
And you get the things.
What is the point of the app
What
at
if,
that
what if
point?
you just slept though?
Does it track
mean,
snoring?
It doesn't track. It doesn't track snoring. Nobody knows
Yeah, I'm
what.
pretty sure it does track audio stuff.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing right now is that major corporations are like, man, we've only been getting health data for normies. We really need to branch out. Somebody develop an app so we can get all these people who play Pokemon Go.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that exists.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, what have you been playing lately?
All right. So we talked about it last time, but I picked up Dave the Diver, and it's great. It's really good. If I had a nickel for every excellent fishing-based indie game that came out this year and started with the letter D, I would have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it is weird that there's 2. Because
Man,
Dredge also came out this year.
I texted Caleb. Was that yesterday?
Yeah, I
I
think it was
texted
yesterday.
Caleb and I was like, Dredge or Dave the Diver? Because I haven't purchased either one yet. And he was like, why not both? And I was like, aren't they like kind of similar? Like I only have to play one of them. And he's like, no, you should play both of them. I'm like, freaking
Oh, it's
A.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
Dave the Diver is a little more like cheerful,
Yeah,
whereas
definitely.
Dredge is more like Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I love both. So I've been really, really enjoying it.
It's just got so much goofy stuff in it. It just keeps you interested constantly.
Literally, like I swear, it's like every in-game day, there's a new mechanic.
Yeah.
That it's just like, oh hey, by the way, you can do this. Oh, by the way, you can do this. Oh, by the way, you can do this. And it's like it just keeps evolving, and it's at such a nice clip. Like if I started the game and they were like, here are all the mechanics, I would have dropped it like immediately.
Yeah.
But they introduce it so bit by bit that it's every time it's like, oh, just one more thing? I can handle just one more thing. Oh, now I have to pour beer. Oh, now I have to handle farming. Oh, now I can capture fish alive. And it's like, oh my god, like by the end you have all of this shit you're dealing with. It's really fun.
I hope you know after that conversation I just like frustrated and I ended up getting neither. So
Of course.
good job.
Classic.
The heck?
Maybe
Alex?
I'll play one or both of those before the end of the year. I don't
You
know.
don't like
Both of
scary
them.
games. Play Dave the Diver.
Yeah.
All right. Is Dread
There
really
it is.
scary?
It's Alex.
It is Alex. That's a good point.
It
Come
plays
on.
scary music
point.
sometimes.
It does play scary music occasionally.
Can't do it.
Hey, now, come on. Come on.
Both are
another-
well worth your time, though.
They're both really good. I think Game of the Year, I'm gonna have a hard time picking between the two.
Yeah.
I've also been playing The Outer Worlds, not to be confused with Outer Wilds.
Mhm.
It's also
Or
crazy
Outer
that both
Lands.
those games came out the same year.
Yeah.
But Outer Worlds is the Obsidian Western RPG, and it's great. It was in the Humble monthly bundle for this
What are
month.
you guys doing the next Rumble?
Right now, baby, we're
We
doing
were
it
just
now.
talking about that like yesterday.
Yeah, we were actually. But Outer Worlds, I forgot how good the writing is in this game. It's delightful. I've been really, really enjoying it. Playing through it again. I'm playing the DLC now, which is really good. The first DLC, it's like Peril on Gorgon or something. It's got big, like, Firefly vibes.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
specifically Serenity, the movie. It feels a lot like that, which I've been enjoying.
So you restarted from scratch to be able to
I
play
did.
the DLCs?
Yeah, well, I originally played it on Game Pass, so I don't have any
okay.
of that data anymore.
Gotcha.
Which is the other reason I had never played the DLCs before. But to me, this is the game that Starfield has to beat, and I don't know that it's going to. The combat's actually like fun, which I can't really say for most of Bethesda's games, at least as far as guns are concerned. The writing's good, which I can't say for most Bethesda games. And it's pretty. It has nice looking graphics and colors and such. And I know
Yeah.
how important that is to some people in this podcast.
It has a way smaller scope.
Yes,
You want to say something?
I think I already said it, baby. It does. It has a tighter scope, which I think is way to its credit because it means each planet actually has stuff on it,
Yeah.
and there's like theming and ideas going on. Whereas, like, if say hypothetically you had a space game that had, I don't know, 1,000 planets, I think 995 of those are going to be disposable, are going to be interchangeable and boring, and you're not going to remember them. Whereas here, each planet has personality. It does this whole Outer Worlds, it does this whole, like, post-capitalist thing, where, like, basically the universe is dominated by these huge corporations, and they just dominate everything. And they do a lot of really funny stuff with that. It's a real vibe, especially these days. I love it. I'm really enjoying it. And then the last thing I played, I finally finished Jedi Survivor. Man, I really liked this game, and then I keep encountering bugs with it, and then the story just kind of goes like, and then it just kind of ends.
Story's very.
I didn't think I would care about the story, but then I started to care about the story, and then it just like shits itself inside out. Like it's such a shame.
It's so bad at the end, man.
It's just like, that guy? Yeah, he's a Sith Lord now. I don't know. I know that doesn't make like a lot of sense, but he definitely was the whole time. And your character's like, man, it's so weird that I couldn't like detect that he was a Sith Lord.
Yep.
Yep. And then
Anyway.
they move on.
Never cover it.
Never
He's
come
right,
back
guys.
to that.
Address it again.
The fact that he brings it up to, he was like, how didn't I sense that? And I was like, how didn't you sense that, my dude?
Like, okay.
It makes it so much worse.
I'm not huge into Star Wars, but have they ever detected a dark side user? Because all I can think of are instances where they specifically did not.
See,
you know what I mean?
That's true, actually.
Like,
they
Palpatine was a bad guy,
don't...
all the prequels. Nobody knew.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
I'm not convinced Jedi can detect evil Force users. I think they just
seem
say
like
that.
they can at all.
They just make it up, so other people go, oh, they can tell.
They can do it in the shows. They can do it in the games, in other games. They can't do it in any of the fucking movies.
Ahsoka senses when Anakin turns.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because he had a red lightsaber, though?
she's on a ship like across the galaxy somewhere else and knows that he's turned.
She also has like a connection with him.
Yeah, they're a Force
also like the biggest Force user. And him changing kind of like changes the Force in general.
It changes the balance of the Force.
But in this game, Darth Vader shows up and everyone goes, oh shit, he's here. No one detected him there.
True that. They're very surprised he's suddenly there.
I think one last thing about this game, my favorite piece of lore that it establishes is that when a Jedi turns evil, they take apart their lightsaber, they take their crystal, and they change its color to red before they put it back in.
Yes.
They specifically go, I'm going to be evil now, and they make the conscious choice to change the color.
It's perfect. It's
hilarious.
I love
I
it.
laughed out loud.
Believe it or not, already in the lore. Yeah.
So stupid.
They bleed the crystals and change them red.
I like assumed bad guys just like red, or the Empire said, here's your red one, or when they turn evil, it just turns red. Not that they had to pull it out and specifically go, I need to make it red now because I'm a bad guy.
I think
if I ever
usually
draw
they
this, I
take
need everybody to
crystals
know I'm a bad one.
from somebody else's and make it red.
I kind of just thought it was because they talk a lot about how the Kyber crystals are like tied to. I mean, they even talk about it in the first Jedi game, whatever it's called. But
the crystal chooses you.
Yeah, right. And so I thought that there may be like it would be tied to the crystal, kind of like you're saying. Like when you turn evil, the crystal just like senses that.
Yes,
and
it just like
red.
changes.
That would seem more thematically appropriate.
You gotta pull it out and specifically tell it to be red.
Yeah.
So funny.
You know, I actually loved this game up until the end. Like the storyline after Vader shows up, I think is absolute trash.
Yep.
I think if they would have honestly had Vader show up, you do that fight, and then somehow during the fight, the little, I don't know, whatever you call it, the wayfinder that gets you to the other planet was just inadvertently destroyed, the compass, and that was it. You know what? Fine, I'll take it. That's a solid ending, and I don't have to deal with this, I don't know, somehow ultimately powerful Sith Lord that's been hiding and hanging out with me this entire time.
By the way, whose motivations are just
awful.
Make no sense.
Yeah.
Right?
No
His
sense.
He's
entire
got to
thing is,
protect
I
his
have
daughter,
to save
even
my
though
daughter.
we gave him like 500 chances to save his daughter.
And my favorite part is when they go there, it's like, all right, you're no longer interacting with any other children. You're going to be alone here by yourself, learning from me. But I'm also just angry and angsty, and I'm just over here hitting things with my lightsaber. So leave me alone. Like, no.
I think one of my other favorite things about this game, you spend the whole game getting this compass, and it's like, this compass is important because it's the only way to get that planet. And then Jetpack Guy turns into an evil Sith Lord and steals the compass. It's like, well, shit, we'll never find him. And then Cal watches the video just a little bit further, just like the last 5 minutes, and they're like, oh, by the way, there is a second way to get there that's way easier than getting a fucking compass. So you just go back to the planet you started on and do that, and you're there in like 5 minutes.
It's so dumb.
It's so
dumb.
funny.
I feel like they just ran out of time to finish the writing, and they were like, well, I mean,
whatever. He just goes. Who cares?
Ugh. Man.
So
That
good. So
game
funny.
was it
I mean,
was
that
very
game's
much
so much
for me.
fun,
It's like
but-
it's like this very long, slow rise to a peak where I feel like really solid about the game, and then it just freaking plummets. Just plummets. Oh well. Happens. Caleb, what have you been playing?
I got a couple games. We were in New York this past weekend, so I picked up something to play on my Steam Deck called Let's! Revolution!
Great.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you said that with enough emphasis, but I'll take
Maybe
it.
not. You can shout it if you want. I'm good.
That's okay.
It's a roguelike puzzle-y kind of game. It's got a lot in common with Minesweeper, weirdly. Yeah, so it creates a grid, and there's essentially a system of roads on the grid, and at every dead end there's like a upgrade or the king who you're trying to find. And all along the roads are the only places where enemies can spawn. And all non-road tiles have a number on them that show how many road tiles are near them. So you're like trying to explore, find the king, but every time you step on a road tile that has an enemy, you take damage, and then the enemy starts their countdown to deal extra damage to you. You got to try to kind of deal with them as you explore, or explore without running into them by accident. It's a surprisingly deep little game. There's like 4 different characters, each who have different ways of interacting with all of the enemies. The first one just has a bunch of like high damage moves that can reveal tiles and deal damage at the same time. The second one can like re-hide tiles after you find an enemy, so that they're not doing their countdown to deal damage to you. It's pretty cool. It's a really weird idea mixing it with Minesweeper. But I think it works pretty well.
Is the king you're trying to find your king or like an enemy king?
No, you're like a rebel, and he's like a terrible tyrant.
Let's revolution.
Okay, yeah.
It's your king.
Sure.
Yeah.
All
I mean,
right.
it's your king, but you're trying to overthrow.
You're trying to overthrow your king. Okay.
Yeah.
Doing a revolution.
I think really the confusion there, Alex, I get it, I understand it. It's that there's an exclamation point after let's. If it was just let's revolution, like you'd be like, oh, that's a bad king. But let's revolution. It seems like, are they tied together? Who's revolted? I don't know, man.
I was trying to understand the end goal.
Yeah, there's like I think there's 9 levels you play through. On the final level, instead of just trying to find the king, you have to fight him and deal a bunch of damage, and every time you deal damage, he like moves and spawns a new enemy. So there's a lot of movement in the final level, but yeah. It's pretty neat. The other game I've been playing, I brought this one up before. It's called I Was a Teenage Exocolonist. It is a adventure, almost visual novel-y at times game. I kind of wanted to bring it up because I went back to it and started playing it again and finally finished it. And it is an exceptional game. It's really, really good. You play as a teenager on a new planet. You start at age 10. You play up through, you end at when you turn 20, essentially. And you live this life exploring month by month and doing different exploration activities or building up your stats, etc. And I think it tells a really unique and interesting story. All the characters are really, not all of them are likable, but they're all very human characters. So the ones you dislike, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to dislike them, but usually they have some redeeming twist on them, right? They kind of brings you to them a little bit. And I think it just tells a really cool story between all the different characters. And it's a game that's designed to be played multiple times. You can't get like the sort of best ending playing through it once. It's got this sort of meta arc in the storyline that only plays out through multiple playthroughs, which is cool.
Cool.
Are you a different teenager on a next playthrough, or is it the same?
No, you are the same teenager.
Oh, okay. So you just restart.
Yeah, so even on the first playthrough, you get some of this. You see like visions of previous lives that you've lived on this planet with the same people, same friends, etc. And that kind of plays out through multiple lives if you choose to play through multiple.
That's weird.
And it can drastically change things that happen in the story. Even this is a game where I think choices matter a lot, which is, I feel like, uncommon in games.
What? There's so many games that say that the choices matter.
Yeah, there's so many that say choices matter, and choices
Do you want to
never
pick
matter.
The really evil choice or the really heroic choice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you
this
either
one
be
is,
bad or good. That matters.
This one is much more subtle. I really enjoy.
Paragon and Renegade.
I'll go next. I've only really been playing one game, and that is Hades. I've picked it back up to start playing again. This run through, I've been doing Hell mode only, which Hell mode is requires 5 ranks in different Pact of Punishment items, which is hard labor, all foes deal extra damage, lasting consequences where you don't, like, you get less health regen and gain between, like, if you pick up hard or something. Jury summons, which is extra enemies. Calisthenics program, which is all of the foes have more health. And personal liability, which is basically after you get hit, there's like a small point, like a small duration of invulnerability before you can take damage again. It just basically takes that away. So you can get hit by multiple attacks at the same time. Way more deadly. It's a lot more difficult on hell mode, but incredibly fun. I freaking love this game. It's just so well written. It is unique in a lot of different ways. When I first started playing on my first run, I really felt like it didn't have that Binding of Isaac, get a crazy setup of boons and abilities in order to just run through really quickly. But at this point, I think I've made it where I've gotten enough from the mirror, you know, like in different abilities and aspects that I'm able to run through and just absolutely demolish everything in a room if I happen to get like a good setup of boons. I've also recently just gotten into the hidden aspects for the infernal arms. Like I started getting some of those unlocked, and they're just really cool how they sort of adjust and change the game and how you approach combat. And then what are they called? Erebus gates, which is the things where you go in and you can't take any damage, which gives you like a choice of your next like item that you get. This excellent game. The story's great. The little side stories you have with the 3 different people in the 3 different regions and trying to figure those out. The conversations that you have with the people who are actually in hell with you. It's just well written, and it's just a fun game to play. And I think I'm like 50 runs in hell mode. I have beaten Hades 3 times, but I have a ways to go before I get to the final actual ending, which I never got in my first run through. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I never actually got there. I think I beat him 5 times, and by the time I did that, I didn't know there was an actual ending. Like I just thought, all right, this is just going to kind of just keep going, telling more of the story. So I'm going to try and get there this time, but we'll see.
I think isn't the sequel supposed to go early access sometime this year?
Yep.
That's basically why I picked this back up, because I wanted to play the sequel.
Fair enough.
The early access for it. So
Fair enough.
If you haven't played this all the way through, excellent game, by the way. It's just very replayable. Let's see, who do we got next? Alex.
Yeah. I played some Helldivers. In the wake of announcement of the second game, Frank has been playing a lot of Helldivers, so he got me into some Helldivers. That game's still excellent. It's so much fun. We got to a point where we were just playing 2 of us, and we were trying to complete this holdout objective. So it got very tactical in that we were trying to choose what abilities to take with us, and like how to set up turrets to where they're not shooting each other, and like making sure we have enough abilities to deal with armored enemies and not friendly fire each other and stuff like that. So it's pretty intense. A lot of fun. Still a great game.
Yeah, when you only have one person to try to call you in while they're being attacked, that sounds tough.
It's unsat.
Approximately how long are the missions? Like 30 minutes in and out?
30 minutes in and out, 20 minutes in and out. I don't know. They added like 3 more difficulties on top of what they used to have. So
Man,
Helldive used to be the hardest difficulty, which of course it's called Helldivers. Helldive is the hardest difficulty. Now there's 13th, 14th, and 15th difficulty on top of that. So
are they called like Super Helldive?
No, they're called stupid things.
Dive into hell.
I'll look it up. You can move on. I'll bring it up.
All right. Chad, you're up, buddy.
Hey. So yeah, this game's already been talked about, but I played a little Dave the Diver. I had a just tiny bit of trouble getting into it just because I started playing it and didn't log out before the power went out at my house.
Oh no.
So all of the tutorials that I went through, I had to go back through them.
That's devastating.
I think I played like 3 to 4 hours of the game before it shut down on me. So
the game's pretty handholdy at times too.
Yeah, especially early.
Yeah.
So basically, because of that, there's a lot of me mashing A to get through dialogue now to try to get back to the point where I was, which I've since surpassed that, which is, because stuck it out, and you do get into this loop of just like, all right, I can dive, all right, getting this stuff, cool, I got this stuff, I'm full, let me go back up. Oh, I got money to spend on this, I can go dive again. All right, let's do it. And it's just like it's it's pretty nice little flow to it. So
it's a great loop. It's so much fun.
I've realized what you guys were talking about by pouring the tea or the beer or whatever you want to call it, where it doesn't really show you. And also on the Steam Deck, I had it down to an art because I started playing on a Steam Deck for a little bit since I had no power. And when I got back onto my controller, the timing that I had in my head is actually off. It's weird between how the analog sticks interact on controller and Steam Deck. So on Steam Deck, it's 5 seconds, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. On controller, it's 4 seconds. That was pretty cool to discover. But yeah, I'm getting deep. Gives me the we need to go deeper vibes.
Yeah.
The Helldivers difficulty levels, if you care. First level is Dive in the Park. Then there's a bunch of them that are named like normal difficulties. And then you get to difficulty 9 is hard as hell. 10 is suicide mission. 11 is impossible. 12 is hell dive. And that's the most they had for like a long time. Then they released a update. Difficulty 13 is an exercise in futility, which difficulty 13 actually introduces new enemy units. So 13 above have new enemies types.
Just starting at level 13 difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool.
Difficulty 14 is the definition of insanity, and then difficulty 15 is the inner circle of hell.
Oh.
Wow. They really missed a trick. If one of them is Helldive, Helldive, Helldiver, Helldivist. What are we doing, guys?
Helldivist.
Helldivist.
That's great. That's perfect.
Fun. Yeah.
If developers who are listening, you can have that one for free. That one's on me.
The Dave
Put that in the sequel.
Better make a Dave the Divist.
Wow.
Be very upset if they don't.
We could make a prequel called Dave the Dive.
Is that all, Chad?
No.
Oh, no.
Speaking of hell,
Speaking of hell.
one of the games that I've been playing lately is the season 1 of Diablo, which there's a lot of information behind this, so buckle up.
Oh, boy.
I originally, I think in our latest talkings of Diablo, I said I was around like level 70 in season 0, and I don't know if I was going to push to 100. They updated the game to where Nightmare Dungeons gave way more XP, and so getting from 70 to 100 was way easier. I pushed through, my rogue's level 100 now, and then season 1 dropped, 1.1.0 version dropped, and there's a excellent clip by Asmongold that basically describes exactly what they did to this game. I'll try to find it and send it to the group. Maybe Aaron can put it on the site. But basically, he goes through and says that they ruined the game. So from my description of it, they nerfed all classes. Poison Rogue for some reason wasn't really touched, so that was weird. Heavily nerfed Barb and Sorcerer. Barbarian and Sorcerer. I'm like talking actual Diablo terms instead of, the normie terms. Barbarian from the start has just every patch almost gotten a nerf. Like anytime they're like, Necros are using Bone Spear to one-shot Uber Lilith, we gotta nerf Genji. Barbarians are the Genjis of the Diablo universe. So resistances. Go ahead.
Weren't they terrible in the playtest? And they super buffed them?
Yeah, I don't know. They gave it. Basically made it. Go ahead.
I think the situation was playtest only went to level 25, and as soon as you got to end game, you realized how strong they actually were.
Right.
Because Barbarian is the only class that can equip 4 different weapons at once, so they automatically get extra benefits just from item stats.
Yeah.
They also have shouts, which makes them OP because you basically run out of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of your 6 skills, you run 4 shouts and then 2 attacks. So you're basically buffing yourself armor-wise, buffing yourself attack-wise, taunting the enemies to get closer to you. and you're using either Hammer of the Ancients, which is like a smack to the ground with an aspect that bursts out in a circle, or you're using Whirlwind, which is just smacking everybody in a circle and just absolutely demolishing people, which I think one of the first World 100s was using Whirlwind and just smashing through mobs, and they kept running, and then they would restart a dungeon and stuff like that. So on top of all the nerfs that they did, resistances still don't work properly. So for some reason, if you go in and you get hit by like an electric charge and you have electric resistances on, then you're not actually getting the electric resistances or frost resistances or whatever. Devs know about this, but they can't fix it for some reason. I don't know why. Renown still needs to be grinded. So you get the Altars of Lilith and the Exploration, but you have to repeat side quests and repeat dungeons, which is absolute trash. Hell Tides, you used to be able to go into Hell Tides, which are zones that randomly spawn for an hour on the map. You go in there, enemies are a little harder. When you kill them, they drop these things called cinders, in which you collect those to open random chests around the zone. And there are mystery chests that you kind of target farm, 2 per every, I think, half hour. So like they reset the half hour mark. And they used to cost 175 each. So you could potentially get 4 chests. They made it to where they are now 250 cinders, so can't open those anymore. I mean, you get like 2 maybe per session. Something that was shadow updated, which this was since changed, but it's kind of the it's just an example of how out of touch the devs are currently with the community. World Tier 3 was locked behind level 50 when it was not locked before. And World Tier 4 was locked behind level 70. Now, to give you some perspective, at level 45, I got to World Tier 3, and at level 58, I got to World Tier 4. So
wow.
That's a huge time that you're just basically artificially extending your game by making those locks. XP changes have happened, so when you had like 1 level above you, so if you're versing a level 61 and you're 60, you would have originally got 15 more experience for killing that. It is now 1.5 experience. 2 levels higher is it used to be 20% experience. Now you're only getting 3% experience. And 3+ levels higher than you is 25, and now it's 15. They also essentially nerfed power leveling. You used to be able to bring friends into dungeons, leave them at the front, and just go through and wipe out mobs. There's a whole formula and stuff like that about how they've changed that, but essentially it's super reduced and it's not worth doing it at all. One of the major changes was the vulnerable damage was basically in every single build. You would try to run something to make the enemies vulnerable, and then after that, anytime you do damage to them, it like skyrocket your attacks damage, but they reduced that by 40%, which honestly is probably a good thing, because centering all builds around vulnerable damage isn't the best.
You kind of want all your builds to be equally viable, right?
Right. They also did a bunch of cooldown reduction and all sorts of stuff. They also made leaving dungeon timer go from 3 seconds to 5 seconds, which is
oh boy.
So a lot of this was brought up on their campfire chat. Which is the thing that they do to talk directly to the community instead of just being like a dev post where they're talking to the community but they're not answering questions or like, having a discussion. When that was brought up on why they did that, they kind of dodged the question and said, well, we added a reset dungeon button. Okay, but why does it take 5 seconds to leave the dungeon? Asmund brought up a good point, and he basically said that he believes wholeheartedly that they're about to add dungeon teleport animations for sale in the store, and it doesn't work with a 3 second, it works with a 5 second. And he was like, if they would have just come out and said that, I feel like everybody would be like, oh, okay, makes sense, like whatever, you guys need to make money on a live service game, fine, like whatever. They also in the campfire chat came out and said, we're sorry for all of the nerfs, we know it's horrible, we know that basically this is bad. You can go look on Metacritic. They used to be like I think it was like a 7-8 score from the community on this game. It's now like a 2. They basically said they were sorry for coming out with all these nerfs. A patch like this will never happen again, and if they ever do nerfs, they'll also do buffs alongside it. And so some of the buffs that they did since in like a 1.1 0 like B and C update is they made nightmare dungeons essentially easier. So if you were going up to the sigil 100 tier, they dropped that down to like a 75 difficulty. And they said that they were also going to add content to the game for those people who are pushing that 100 and think that it's now too easy. They're going to add hard content for those people that want to push beyond the level 75 tiers. So yeah, a lot of changes, a lot of things that are kind of interesting in the Diablo world. Some things that like it's just questionable because they've had all these years with Diablo 1, 2, and 3. That is, how are they messing this up so bad? So
Is there PvP?
there is in fact PvP.
There is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that like a big part of the game? Because I thought it was largely PvE.
Yeah, it's PvE. There are 2 small sections on the map, and when I say small, I mean when you're looking at this map, it's like your pinky nail compared to your hand.
Real small.
Sections of the map that have PvP in it. PvP is comical, and and you could take me on a tangent in MMO PvP, but it's basically I went in there as a druid. So I've been in there as a rogue before and have struggled. I created a druid this time, and I went in there, and basically anybody that came near me, I would absolutely just smack down with like basically one shot. I would 1v4 people. Like it's just so the balance in the game is just so comical. Like it's not like it's not a PvP game. Like they can't balance this that way.
It just seems weird to me then. Why nerf everyone?
Yeah.
Like if it's
seems
mainly
like a weird
PvE and people make these ridiculous builds and it's like, man, barbarians are out of control. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
part of the fun. That's why I bought the game, was that way I could make something and feel really strong and out of control. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
So-
buff everything else instead of...
Yeah, right. Instead of
Nerfing
bringing
what's already
barbarian down, bring them up.
There is a clip. I don't remember if it's Path of Exile or D3, but one of the high-end streamers, his name's Woody Joe or whatever, shows what happens when you don't nerf anything. And I think he did like 400 quadrillion damage to a boss and I like one-shot him. And so like there is fun in that, I guess.
It's like power creep numbers.
I mean,
Yeah.
Numbers getting too
for
big.
sure, right? Like if there's an exploit or whatever, or some class is way out of control, but like it doesn't sound like. I mean, maybe I don't know. It doesn't
I
sound
agree
like
with
that
you.
was the
I'm
case.
not trying to say that
Sure.
you're wrong. I'm just
The
saying
builds
that
were fun, and it was like, I don't know.
yeah.
Like
I
unless
think
you
it's
get to a
more
point where
like
it's
they're...
like. Sorry, go on.
It's more like Chad was saying when they changed the exit dungeon thing to be 5 seconds. It's because everybody keeps on thinking that they're trying to like slow people down in progression.
Yeah, that's what it
Because
sounds like if you're nerfing
They
everything.
want you to play longer, so you have more chance to engage with the item shop.
I think the
and
number
keep
one
on the
thing
treadmill.
I think the number
Could
one
be.
thing that devs kind of don't realize, and we can look back at like New World, for instance, and just MMO games that are coming out, is they think that they've added enough front end content. So like the campaign, side quests, the fact that we have to regrind renown, all the front end content is enough that the player base isn't going to hit the end game as fast. And so I think they are trying to slow down the progression there. Because like they don't have the end game developed at all yet.
Sure.
And so like New World had like 5 dungeons that were end game, and like you just kind of run through those over and over again and get bored. What is it? Diablo is the same way, where it's basically like there's a really high end boss, which is like the difficulty scaling goes like World Tier 1's super easy, it's like a level 1 difficulty. World Tier 2 is like a 1.5. World Tier 3 is like around a 2.5 difficulty. World Tier 4 is like maybe a 5, and then Uber Lilith is like 100. Like it's it's this crazy jump where there's abilities that she's using where they one hit you. The hitboxes are super bizarre.
Weird.
She takes a ton of like you need to come up with this most broken exploitive build ever to kind of take her down, unless you're like super skilled and actually know how to dodge the wonky hitboxes. I've only ever gotten a 4th health off of her in my level 100 rogue, so tried it, and then finally I just gave up, and that's when I quit season 0 and I moved on to season 1 with the druid, which again, seems kind of broken. They've added Malignant Hearts, which are pretty cool, which, I mean, I feel like I'm doing more damage on my Druid than I was my Rogue, if that's at all possible with the nerfs that they've done. Like there's one Malignant Heart that pulls in 50 enemies directly to me when I use a ultimate, and then I have another aspect on my armor which makes a landslide go in a circle around me, doing damage and poisoning them. But then I also have stuff that basically says if they're poisoned, you do more damage and have a better chance at criticals. So like maybe they were just trying to balance for season 1's aspects and Malignant Hearts and stuff like that. But now Eternal Realm is basically nothing. Like you can't play Eternal Realm because they don't have the hearts. And essentially people are looking at it as they're doing this so that you buy the battle pass, because if they botch the Eternal Realm, you're not going to go back and play that character. You're going to play season 1, you're going to play season 2, you're going to play season 3, and if you're playing the season, why don't you buy the battle pass? Like it's right there, it's a couple bucks. Like so it's Blizzard though, so I mean it can only go up from here.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. They're on a winning streak.
Yeah, nailing it. Okay, well, I think that's all we have, boyos. What boyos? Makes me sad. We're done with the podcast.
Does it make
We
you
can
sad?
just
You
do
just
a
said you were
second
going to add a time limit.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I had
said
a time
wrap
limit
it up.
'cause
I
I
don't want
just-
to talk to you guys anymore. Your
I
exact
just-
words.
Well, it's really because I get tired of you guys talking, and I want to get back to me talking. So that's why I'm like, I'm going to put a time limit on you guys.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into ChatGPT and I'm going to like write out my stuff so that like it describes it, and then I'll send it over to you.
Yeah,
And then
I'll be like,
you just do the podcast.
yeah, I'm like, Chad, how about you? Well, what I was playing today, and you know how I love MMOs, so I'm going to talk about MMOs. Here we go. Ready? I can do it. I can do it, Chad. I can
We
do
get
it.
the voice AI thing that can take an AI voice print.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm on board for this, guys. Let's try it out for one
I don't
podcast.
wanna
See
replace
how it
all
goes.
my
You
job.
can replace our videos.
Yeah,
I don't
Is
want to
AI
try it out for
generated mouth
one.
movements.
We can't try it out for one podcast because we'll realize it's better.
yeah, that's true.
We'll do
That's
it once.
true.
We'll be like, "Wow, that was fucking fire."
Oh man. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time. See you.